Oh, chat. Since today I am having a serious case of the migraines, and we wanted to try this for a little bit now, we're going to leave the actual podcast part to Mina when she arrives. Meep and Bolt. We're gonna go to the boys in just a little moment. But yeah, that's the plan for today. So let's get on to the boys and see what they're doing. I'll just be on here on the stream. I'll be muted on stream, but I'll be checking chat, making sure everything is going fine.
As soon as it goes into the ads, then
as soon as it started, the ads started. Yep. I can't even check. I can't even listen because I actually got the volume on for Twitch right now because I wanted to double check to make sure the audio was working at the start of the stream.
Yeah, same for me. Oh, horrible timing.
I'll be checking. These guys
It's not even like a normal ad. It was just Twitch saying, "Give me money, give me money."
Yeah. Annoying timing is annoying.
Manager.
Then an ad for DoorDash. Oh my god.
Alright, 30 seconds more, and we'll be back. We're waiting on...
The audio's working.
Alright, shoot. That should...
Confirm the audio works. I can turn the volume down so I'm not hearing a horrible echo. Alright, so... on the Roomba of Thought with Jimmy going to lie down because I heard him say he had a migraine. We have several things in the idea box for this week.
I'm not lying though, I have to make sure the actual stream works.
I don't want to start with that because I want at least Mina to be here for that one. So let's start with the social media platform formerly known as Twitter.
Raised by the fire, huh?
Yep. So Elon Musk, a week after Unity decided to shoot itself in the foot. I said Jimmy, I didn't say Jim. My mic might be picking things up weird because I had to turn the sensitivity way down so you don't hear the fan in my room. Oh, I didn't see that. Anyway. Yeah, Elon Musk said something stupid again. Specifically, following on Unity's decision to try and scout people for money, Elon Musk has decided to try and scout people for money. Specifically, according to what we have found on this, Elon Musk apparently, quote, floated the idea that the social network formerly known as Twitter will no longer be free. Instead, this is apparently in a live-streamed conversation with the Prime Minister of Israel. I didn't realize that. I've opened up the article that Jimmy had sent because he was the one who found this. Elon Musk said the company was, quote, moving to a small monthly payment for the use of the platform. The suggestion that it would be necessary to deal with the problem of bots.
It almost just becomes like an entire tug of war between Unity and Elon Musk to see who can destroy their platform
the
faster
other
than
thing
the
that
other.
makes it really stupid is the number one group that's known to bot on Twitter is the Russians. Russia's infamous for having propaganda bots on Twitter, and Elon Musk is famously not exactly unfriendly to Russia. He's not exactly super friendly with them. I mean, he's provided Starlink to Ukraine for sort of free, or maybe I think the U.S. government's actually paying him to do it now. It was put out in his biography and whatnot. It's revealed that apparently because he was doing really weird stuff with the coverage, a Ukrainian a drone attack failed because of him. They didn't tell him where the service was. Bruh. cringe. He's basically war profiteering. Who would have thought? What else does this article say? Didn't expand on his plan to charge for the site formerly known as Twitter, or when such charges would come about. Pushing its paid subscription program, previously Twitter Blue. $8 per month or $84 a year subscription service. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh wow! If you subscribe for the whole year, you save a whole $1 per month. Wow.
Wow. That's such a bargain. What a steal.
I still think my favorite thing is people who actually bought Twitter Blue. Everyone just laugh at them. And like Tumblr like did a parody of it as well. Tumblr I think parodied it, and you can buy it multiple times and put multiple icons next to your name in different colors. Tumblr is very humorous.
But here's the thing.
Hopefully Mina shows up. I'm gonna
I'm
specifically
reading it
ping Mina
myself.
real quick.
Yeah. Right. Oh, right. That's fine.
What was that, Bolt? Sorry.
Yeah, it happens. I'm reading through it myself, and I also see that the idea of charging people just isn't new to him. Like, literally, it was reported even last year that Elon Musk himself was weighing the idea to just put everything behind a paywall, and now he's trying it again with a subscription.
Well, the thing is, Elon Musk has basically, he's, spoiler alert, the billionaire is not a good person.
He
has routinely been an asshole who's also a bit of a narcissist. Like, he really... apparently he has had disagreements with previous partners on some of his company startups or whatever, that basically he wants control and being like the figure. Like, he didn't found Tesla. He was not involved in the founding of Tesla, but he like got in like some legalese with like his people because he just invested in it. He got himself basically legally allowed to call himself a co-founder. Because Elon Musk has to be involved. It's
of
kind of
course
like Henry Ford. Actually, the similarities between him and Henry Ford are pretty significant, except Henry Ford actually invented shit. And
That's how I know that
didn't
he's worse because he didn't do anything.
Elon Musk doesn't really invent shit. He just spitballs ideas and is a propaganda machine. And
Not to mention he
Elon
ruins
Musk
it.
also started with significant generational wealth because his father owned an apartheid South Africa emerald mine. Henry Ford was born on a farm. Henry Ford actually invented shit. Henry Ford was also extremely anti-Semitic and an asshole, but
At the very least, he did something.
he actually invented shit. Elon Musk doesn't. He just says
Elon Musk
shit.
isn't inventing; he's destroying.
Yes. Now, if he can hurry up and destroy Twitter faster, that'd be appreciated.
Just know that everything that was used on Twitter is gonna just, much like with the whole Tumblr situation when that was going on, expect everyone to once again haul ass and move somewhere else again.
Yeah. I mean, freaking Elon Musk has so many of his stuff he's done is stupid. I mean, SpaceX, I will say, SpaceX has at least accomplished some things that are legitimately good things. They've got the rockets that land themselves to recover them. That's good. Good thing they did. That was clever.
Yeah.
They actually did something.
Yeah.
That's really the best thing I could say from them.
Like, that's just gonna be the only kudos you could possibly give him with what he's doing right now.
And the other thing is with that system, you know what the problem with that system is?
I don't.
It can't lift as much.
Wow.
I'm gonna have to explain something that's literally rocket science, but it's relatively simple. So, the thing with rockets is your average rocket that goes to space, like 90% of its mass is fuel.
Yeah.
And it's why like the golden dream in like space is what's known as the single stage to orbit. Which basically just you don't need to have the rocket stage as it goes up. Are you familiar with what the term staging means?
If I were to guess, that would mean that the rocket like loses parts and then keeps sending
Yes.
itself forward to not lose too much speed.
That's you'll see it if you've ever watched like a rocket take off. It goes and then it sheds parts and it keeps going
Yeah.
and then it sheds parts again. Yeah, that's known as staging. It's like you've got the first stage, the second stage. Yeah, Jimmy's just said it. When it discards parts, yes, because it's you burn the first stage motor, then you eject it, and then you start the second stage motor. Other reason that's done is different kinds of rockets have different pros and cons. And some work better at different altitudes. You've got also like solid rockets, which are very, very cheap, where the fuels are solid. However, you basically can't throttle them. If you turn them off, you can't restart them. As opposed to liquid fuel, which is much more expensive, but is a lot more versatile. Usually what you'll have is, for example, the space shuttle.
Yes.
Space shuttle, if you've ever watched it, has 4 parts. You've got the space shuttle itself. You've got the big orange fuel tank.
On the
and then you've got
side.
the 2 boosters on the sides. Yes. So the 2 boosters on the sides are what's known as solid rocket boosters. It's a pair of solid rockets. It provides a huge amount of thrust to initially get it going, along with the engines on the back of the shuttle, which are liquid engines. Then once the solid rockets are spent, they're ejected. And I think NASA could recover those space shuttles. Those are recoverable because they were ejected at a low enough altitude, they didn't burn up, and they could be recovered, and at least some of them I think could be repurposed, but it was You've got the fuel tank, extra fuel to get into orbit, and then that ended up being ejected later once it was empty, and the space shuttle did its re-entry thing like as a space plane basically.
Yeah.
I've gone on a tangent. I'm talking about rocket science. Incredible. The thing is, obviously, these SpaceX rockets, because they go up and then they land themselves. That means they have to have extra fuel on them that they don't use to push the payload up. They use to then land. Which means you've got extra just waste weight. Which means you can't carry as much payload.
Yep. That would make sense,
Just-
because you're not
For
using
example, hold on, I'm
something
gonna
until
quickly
later.
look this up. Oh. Quickly doing some Googling. Alright. So, the Saturn V rocket, like the most powerful rocket ship ever built, the one that NASA used for like the Apollo missions to send people to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
The fully fueled, it weighed 6.5 million pounds. Alright? It had a payload capacity of 90,000.
Mm-hmm.
Or in metric, fully loaded, it weighed just under 3 million kilograms, with a capacity of just over
Wow.
40,000 kilograms. Yes, Jimmy, I didn't even need to read your message to tell you what it is in metric. I'm aware there are Europeans about.
I mean, you're talking to one as well right now, so...
You have a flag on the moon, you don't. Unless you count the sun-bleached French flags. The sun has bleached the American flag, so they're white. They're all white. Funny France surrender meme, guys. Laugh at them. It's a meme that definitely shouldn't just die because it's been beaten into the ground and is stupid.
Moving
Anyway.
along.
The thing is, single-stage orbit on Earth is not viable with rockets. It just isn't. It's not a thing we can do.
It's too heavy.
But the other thing is, I forget the exact ratio, but if Earth was not even that much bigger, they've calculated that rocket engines would not be sufficient to propel things into orbit.
So you straight up just need multi-stage, otherwise it's just not gonna work.
It's not going to work on Earth. It is theoretically possible, and actually possible in other places. For example, the Moon. The Apollo astronauts who got up into orbit back from the Moon did so in a single stage. Granted, part of why they could do that is the return to Earth vessel stayed in orbit. I don't know how much bigger, Jimmy, off the top of my head. I could look it up, but on the Moon, they could single stage orbit. One of the big reasons there's a lot of modern push to go back to the Moon, actually, because people are going back to the Moon again.
Naturally.
This is confirmed. We're gonna do it again. India sent a probe to the Moon several weeks back. Fourth country to soft landing on the Moon. I mentioned that after it happened. Russia tried to send a probe to the Moon, and it impacted at terminal velocity. Except that there is no terminal velocity on the Moon, actually. You know what terminal velocity is, Bolt?
The point where something would start to burn up, if I would not
Oh.
be mistaken.
No.
No?
Terminal velocity is the fastest gravity will pull something down. If you drop something, it accelerates
point.
until it reaches terminal velocity, and then it stops going
That's
faster.
a coin
The reason that is because the atmospheric resistance basically is the point where that reaches equilibrium with the acceleration of gravity. Things burn up in atmosphere because they're going much, 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 much faster than that.
Right.
Actually, primarily they're going horizontally, not down. They're burning up. Because way it's more orbital mechanics shit. On the Moon, because there's no atmosphere, there's no terminal velocity.
Yeah.
It's
It just,
a
it just continues to
parachute.
go faster and faster and faster.
The other thing is orbital velocity on the Moon is relatively low. For two reasons. One, the Moon. Oh, the Moon is actually a very large celestial object, like on planetary scale. Like, Moon is like it's the 5th largest moon in the solar system. It's relatively similar size to Mercury. Remember, I think it's bigger than Pluto actually. Pluto size.
Jimmy asking if there's no terminal velocity on the Moon, how could they crash at terminal velocity?
That's why I corrected myself, because that was wrong. Yeah. Pluto is about 1,100 kilometers in diameter, whereas the Moon is 1,700. The Moon is bigger than Pluto. Right? Thing is, Moon actually has relatively low density for the solid objects in the solar system. Because when the Moon was formed, are you familiar with the prevailing theory on how the Moon was formed?
I'm familiar with it. It was like first. I'm basically linking this back to Bill Wurtz's History of the Earth video, just for my own reference sake.
Yeah, I think that was actually in the History of the World, I get.
Yeah, it was, because it was basically first the Earth was supposed to be a ball of flaming rocks, but then another ball was
Yeah.
hit, it ran into it, which caused it to become
Another protoplanet collided with the Earth. And
the Proto-Earth.
the thing is with this is they actually have run a bunch of simulations. Like the angle that happened had to be like very, very precise. If it was like too shallow, not enough material would have been ejected. If it was too like direct, both planets would have been annihilated.
So it really had to be curved.
The other thing that makes it interesting is they've like run a bunch of simulations, and they're pretty sure basically Earth's core is basically made of the core of both protoplanets. So when that got ejected, because it was denser, it fell back into Earth, leaving only the lighter materials basically the form of the moon.
We're talking rocket science a lot.
Yes, I'm a science boy. My grandfather and my grandmother both worked on satellites. They've worked on things that went into orbit. Like 2 years ago, actually, one of the things we got from my grandfather for Christmas is we got him a calendar completely full of photos taken at one of the satellites he worked on.
Wow, that's
It was a solar observation satellite. Study the sun.
Which was at a brief moment a deadly laser, but not anymore because
Sun is a deadly laser.
Yep.
Which is actually, sun being a deadly laser is actually another reason why the moon is very interesting. Because the interaction of the solar wind on the moon, which has no magnetic field, spoiler alert, has led to, I don't know if it's confirmed, but it's like heavily theorized because all the math works out that it should, to a high concentration of what is known as helium-3. Isotope of helium, which has an atomic mass of 3 instead of 4. It's missing a neutron, like it's been knocked out by the Helium-1 and Helium-2. Helium-2 maybe exists. Helium-1 doesn't exist, Jimmy. Because Helium-1 would just be hydrogen. The reason Helium-3 is interesting is because Helium-3, in theory, could be used in nuclear fusion.
Oh.
As a fuel in nuclear fusion, which is, you know, like the energy thing that people are working on, which technically we have gotten to work like twice. And I think, yeah, Jim, I think I did mention it when managed to first achieve a fusion ignition that had a net positive result. Moon is theorized to have that. The other reason the moon is useful is the moon has water, which means, first of all, people could be there. Second of all, water can be used to make rocket fuel.
So just do a little bit on the moon, and then you have just more rockets that can be going into orbit, huh?
So the reason that's useful is, one, you can locally make rocket fuel on the moon, which is useful for sending stuff from the moon. The other thing is because the moon has less gravity, if you launch something from the moon, you could have a larger payload relative to the amount of fuel you have.
True.
Another thing the moon's useful for is it has no atmosphere. It's much easier to construct surface-to-orbit installations like space elevators. It means, in theory, you could construct something in the orbit of the moon to basically serve as a launch platform from orbit, send things into the outer solar system and beyond. Are you not familiar with the concept of a space elevator, Jimmy?
Wouldn't seem like it.
So a space elevator is a theoretical construct built on the equator of a celestial body, either like the Earth, the Moon, Mars, whatever. Which is it's basically, it's what it sounds like. It's basically an elevator that takes you into space. It is generally described as a tensile structure, meaning it's held in tension by a large counterweight, generally like an asteroid on the end. It's basically, you've got a big long rope that goes up to like an asteroid that basically holds it way up in tension, and you can basically have things go up this rope all the way to orbit without needing fuel, or relatively low fuel. It's not as fast as going into orbit with a rocket, but you don't need to be, because you don't need rockets and stuff. It's basically you're running a line up to a space station. It doesn't quite work, Jimmy. It's a theoretical construct. It on Earth especially, it wouldn't work very well because Earth has things like annoying atmosphere stuff and storms and there's a lot of issues with it. And also, instead of working like a normal elevator where it's like winched up, it's more like a crawler that crawls up the line, basically. It's complicated. There's a lot of like complicated physics stuff you can find on it, but like the whole theory behind it is it's a way to get things into orbit that doesn't involve rockets, other than in the construction of it. But it's something that wouldn't really work very well on Earth, but on the moon it would work very well, because not only is there no atmosphere to get in the way, you also don't need to go as high, because there's less gravity, and the thing doesn't need to be as strong because there's less gravity. It's relatively low-tech sci-fi. It's honestly, space elevators are something I wish you'd see more in sci-fi, because they're really cool. They are very interesting bits of technology. The other thing that's in the same similar vein of a alternative way to get into orbit kind of thing is this thing called the Skyhook. Just weird. And a lot more complicated in like explaining it because it's a bunch of weird physicsy thing. It's something that really only works if there's a lot of traffic, so. The whole thing is, in theory, you could build like a space elevator from the moon to like a space station around the moon. Basically use it as a launch platform to send rockets and stuff out to like Mars or Jupiter or things like that.
Kind of had a funny that we went from Twitter to the.
Yes, because I talked about SpaceX and the moon and shit. I can keep talking about space and stuff for a long time because I like space.
I mean, we need to wait until Mina's here if she would even make time for that.
Jimmy just posted picture and images. Did you know Pikachu purrs like a cat and it's a frame from the manga?
Yes. Now I do.
Jimmy mentions the Temu thing, which is something our other friends mentioned. I don't fully understand, but it's a company based out of China or something that sells Chinese knockoff crap built in Chinese sweatshops for way more than they're worth. And apparently they do a lot of other scummy stuff, and apparently it's been like revealed that like their store app is basically just spyware.
Oh, boy.
Fucking around here. It's because it's the manga that's like Fat Pikachu, right?
I think so.
Chubby Pikachu. Chubalord.
Makes me want to ask. Let's play more Fat Pikachu.
We also need like Chubby Pichu and Chubby Raichu. Bring back
Alright.
the Chub.
You're on the gang of Fat too. Alright. I mean, I can't blame you. I really cannot.
He's a round lad.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
yeah,
the most
Raichu is a bit more chubby. Raichu didn't get as slimmed down as Pikachu did.
Yeah. Like the most recent one of Fat Shoe that we had was Gen 8 with Gigantamax Pikachu, or as everyone calls them, P.
Gigantamax Pikachu is literally just Gen 1
And
Pikachu
with a different
colorized.
tail. No,
I know
Jimmy, not like
Pichu's always
that.
been Pichu's always been slim, but still it'd be interesting to see it in like the Gen 1 rotund lad style.
I mean, Beta Pichu was literally a round boy.
He was just a circle.
He was just a round boy. He was
Round
basically
boy.
Seal.
Feel. Oh yes, feel. Mina poses something about NFTs being worthless, and nothing of value was lost. Mina will talk about that when Mina gets here.
Yes, he will.
Oh, right, I forgot I'd put this in here. Azerbaijan and Armenia. They're having a scuffle. Again.
Oh, there comes an ad.
The ads are back.
Oh, and how funny is this? The ad that I get is literally the one for Pokemon. How fitting. Even though we're doing nothing with Pokemon, if we just use Pokemon images, somehow that causes me to get a Pokemon ad. Alright then.
I got one for freaking Tales the Expanse. Like, what?
Oh, hello there.
Oh, Mina's here. The second Chew.
The second Chew has joined.
Not the
Group of
duo
Chews
Chews,
is
though, 'cause that's the
expanding.
Gen 3 Chews. Hello, Mina.
Hello, how are y'all?
Oh, I'm
I heard
good.
you briefly. You're a little quiet, but I can hear you. But that's because you were sleepy.
I am very sleepy. I slept
Good.
late.
Set up late?
Played too much Tears of the Kingdom because I don't have my weekdays anymore.
Because you're
Yeah.
employed.
Because I'm employed.
Well, we're taking it easy for the time being.
Let me wrap up with Azerbaijan and Armenia's scuffle, and then you can talk about NFTs crashing even harder than they already did.
Okay.
So, nations of Armenia and Azerbaijan, which for any Americans in the chat who don't know where that is in the region known as the Caucasus, which is east of Turkey, south of Russia, north of Iraq, I'm pretty sure. North of Iraq and Iran. It's between the Black Sea and another sea, who's the Caspian Sea. Armenia and Azerbaijan had a there was a little bit of fighting. I think it very quickly died down over a disputed territory. That was basically Armenia had a disputed enclave within Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan wanted, but most of the population was ethnically Armenian, and Azerbaijan went and took it back, and it was internationally recognized as belonging to Azerbaijan anyway. It was basically just like Armenia and like Russia who recognized it, because Armenia technically is in basically Russia's bootleg NATO, and Russia couldn't be bothered to help them because they're currently losing to Ukraine. And now they're like negotiating, and a lot of people are upset and over it, and yada yada yada. It was like, it's as far as I can tell though, it's not that bad. There wasn't really that much fighting over. It's really just like they showed up, marched around, fired a couple artillery shells in the general direction. Basically, I was
still
like,
had
yeah.
I still had
We're-
a bunch
we're-
of students back when I was teaching in my university. A lot of the population is Armenian, so a lot of them were very worried about, relatives or what would happen because of it. I think because I don't know how long ago it was, they're still, like, the effects of the Armenian genocide are still with them.
That was something Turkey did, or was that something the Soviets
I
did?
believe it was Turkey, because when I entered an Armenian market, they specifically noted that they did not carry any Turkish products.
Oh right, yeah, because there was ethnic Armenians within one of the Turkish regions. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 1915 to 1917.
Oh yeah. Oh right, because that was the Ottomans. Because the Ottomans scapegoated Armenia for them basically getting their shit pushed in World War One. Even though really the Ottomans didn't fight very much in World War One. Basically, Winston Churchill just had the Australians and the Kiwis attempt something, and it didn't go very well.
I have a story about being ethnically Armenian. I'm not myself, but I had a classmate who was making their student film about that. Oh my god, that professor. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it before.
Pretty sure you have.
Do tell.
So this student wanted to make their film about an Armenian goddess missing how Armenia used to be back in the times where people still believed in gods and they could roam around the earth, instead of the modern times where they hate everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to be set in Armenia. I think her name was Estelik. I could be wrong. But the goddess, she basically works in a coffee shop, and she just walks around the street upset. She quits her job. She just tries to figure out what to do now, right? Try to make the best of the era she's in currently.
Right.
And so my tone-deaf professor, she's just like, well, why don't we put her in Los Angeles so that we know it's modern time?
Oh.
Oh.
And then the student, she's like, well, because she's an Armenian goddess, I want her to be in the homeland.
The professor probably doesn't even know where Armenia is.
She definitely didn't.
Oh, didn't even know it was a country.
Like it.
No. Do you want to know what she says next? It gets absolutely worse.
Oh no.
Does she refer to Armenia? Wait, let me guess. Does she refer to Armenia as a third world nation?
No, it's even worse than that.
Oh no.
She says, well, there are more Armenians in Glendale anyway.
Oh my god!
And
I'm sorry,
she's like,
what?
all of us people who heard it was in the second class, I was in the first one. And the people in there, they're like looking at each other like, well, yeah, there's a fucking reason for that. It was very, like, tone deaf, I don't even think is enough to describe what the fuck that was.
I don't think there's anything you can use to describe that.
Like, ma'am,
Chris
there's a
Pitt,
reason Armenians has a statue dedicated to the people lost in the genocide. They're not here because they want to be. They came here for safety.
Yeah. One of my coworkers actually over the summer for my summer job was actually from Azerbaijan. Didn't mention anything like that. Mostly was talking about a lot of the stuff that she mentioned was like she like immigrated like in her own lifetime. And a lot of it was comparing the U.S. to Azerbaijan. Apparently, one of the things she'd done previously before she worked when she was working at the city with me was she worked with the U.S. military as a language teacher for both. I think mainly she was helping teach Russian, but also Azerbaijan. I don't know what the language in Azerbaijan is called. Obviously, a lot of Russian because it's former Soviet territory, but I don't know what the local language is called. It's talking about a lot of like the differences between the U.S. and Azerbaijan. It's very different place, obviously.
Azerbaijan is a Turkic language. Azerbaijani is a Turkic language. So it's called Azerbaijani.
Interesting. Yeah. Because Azerbaijan is obviously and Armenia are both very different from the U.S. Very different. I'm pretty sure the Caucasus are considered Eastern Europe. I think. I don't know. That area, that side of where Europe is very foggy. Obviously, Europe isn't a continent really. If we're being honest. It's just the Europeans refuse to consider themselves on the same continent as, like, China. But... Because, Europeans be like, especially old school Europeans, were not great people on average, especially the elites. Eastern Europe has problems, especially the Caucasus. The Caucasus have most of modern history in either Imperial Russian territory or a Soviet territory. Which, if you know much about the history of either, is not great. There's been a lot of problems there. About the biggest boon they have. The Caucasus. It's like CAU something or other. I don't know how to spell. About the most significant thing in modern times that they do have going for them, because they do have some things going for them, is they have quite a bit of oil. And I'm not super familiar with that part of the world. I'm gonna be honest. Yes, they have oil, Jimmy. They're generally considered I don't think they're generally considered part of the Middle East. They're literally just north of Iraq and Iran, so. Oh, Jimmy, you're Spanish. That's not your job.
If you were American, maybe, but no.
I'm pretty sure part of the reason that's a meme, one of the U.S. generals, when we invaded Iraq, literally said we were going to secure the oil fields. Anyway, moving on from global events, look into that if you're interested. The Armenia, Azerbaijan, whatever, are ongoing issues. Spoiler alert, Armenia no longer considers Russia a very useful security partner after this. Even in the lead up to this, they were realizing, Russia's not a very great security partner. Russia's bootleg NATO is probably going to continue to hemorrhage members. I think it's Armenia, Georgia, Russia, and Kazakhstan is basically all who's in it right now. Maybe Uzbekistan, I don't know. Anyway, Mina, you'd mentioned that NFTs tanked even harder than they already had. I saw that in the idea box.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So I started watching the Some Ordinary Gamers video yesterday, where he starts talking about NFTs. Yesterday or the day before. Didn't Egypt almost send Russia bombs? Meep? Okay. And basically, he mentioned that most NFTs are now completely worthless. So I took a look, and according to Markets Insider, they say a recent study at the price of thousands of collections seems to suggest the answer is yes, NFTs are dead. A report by Damp Gamble.
And nothing of value was lost.
Yep.
Was lost. Based on data provided by an NFT scan and CoinMarketCap, showed that out of 73,257 NFT collections researchers have looked at, 795 of them, or slightly over 95% of them, had a market cap of 0 Ether. They are absolutely worth nothing. By their estimates, almost 23 million people hold these worthless assets. And at this point, people kept telling them, and they insisted they were right. So they're just those type of people who will dig in their heels even harder, just
Sunk cost fallacy.
When that point is very much, yeah, it's a sunk cost fallacy, which a lot of people, participate in. And I don't feel like once you realize that although money is super tight, if you're gonna realize that if you realize it's sinking, it's best to just pull out, right? Pull out, regroup, try again later. But this is not that. This is just... Deb Gamble's study shows 79% of all NFT collections currently remain unsold, and the surplus of supply over demand has created a buyer's market that isn't doing anything to revive enthusiasm. Because, NFTs hold no value. It's either music or it's a part of your ARG. Fucking thanks, Poppy's Playtime. It's an image, but they hold no value that people will want, It's not like a mortgage on a house, where it's super expensive, but at least you get the house out of it.
It's something that had value because people thought it had value.
Right.
And then,
People realized it didn't have value, and then they
everyone
stopped
realized it's stupid. Yeah. It basically it held value for the same reason a lot of modern currencies did. The difference is modern currencies are backed up by the U.S. government and
Another thing
the existing banks and shit.
Another thing
Versus NFTs were just the crypto pros saying, "Trust me, guys, it's worth lots of money. Give it to me. I definitely won't rug pull."
Yeah, I think that's the other thing. As much as they want to make a non-centralized form of currency, even digital, because maybe a digital currency would be nice, because then it would stop having to waste so much money on the U.S. Mint printing out 3 cents for a penny.
Stop making pennies, please.
Yeah, the U.S. Mint spends 3 cents just to make 1 penny, which is 1 cent.
It's up to a full 3 cents now?
I believe so.
I think it was last I saw it was hovering at 2.7.
I rounded up.
Plus 2. It's at 2.72 as of February.
Okay.
Nickel costs 10 cents. 10.41.
Yeah. At some point, you gotta stop making. It costs too much to continue printing currencies, right?
Also, actually, that 2.72 cents to produce the penny is both to produce and distribute.
Okay.
It was not quite as bad, but still.
2.41 cents to actually create the penny, not distribute. However,
U.S. government, please, Congress.
If the U.S. government decided, hey, we are going to start switching to a digital currency that's backed up by gold, and we can all agree has value, kind of like what we do with PayPal or Zelle, I would be fine with that.
I'm pretty sure most U.S. dollars that exist aren't physical; they're digital. They're backed up by being the U.S. dollar. It's basically it's a digital currency that's backed up by having its value stuck to the actual physical currency. It's basically kind of like how the gold standard works.
However, because these crypto bros, they kept marketing that it was decentralized, it's not ruled by government, there is no way for them to for the people to look into this currency and have trust in it, because you can't tell what the difference is between an actual cryptocurrency and a rug pull. You can have the most serious looking project and it could still be a rug pull. It's the same thing with those people who try to make digital land.
Only, I think, cryptocurrencies that have worked have been Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's there's 2. That's because they got big enough that there's enough people involved in it. It's created itself.
And even then, was it FTC that failed because they realized they were spending more money than they actually had in their possession?
Well, that's because FTC was basically a Ponzi scheme, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was a Ponzi scheme.
So that's just, it was a scam.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to do that with crypto.
But it also got big enough to be not comparable, but on the same playing field as Bitcoin. And nobody knew it was a scam until it was too late. Because there's no way to not police. What's the word I'm looking for?
Verify?
Yeah, there's no way to verify where your money is going, what it's being used for, how it's being held.
Same kind of applies to your normal bank, but you know.
Same kinds of applies to their bank, but at least if it
Yeah,
fails,
at least
the
banks are
government can get
insured.
help.
And
Banks are insured.
getting bailed out.
Bitcoin and other such cryptocurrencies are not backed up.
Hot take. If the way the banks work is if what's supposed to work is if it's failed and they're like the insured banks, everyone who'd put money in the bank, the government makes sure you can get that money out. The way banks work is they don't actually hold all the money that's put into them at once. That's how they make money is
They
they
have
then
to
loan
do
that money
rotation.
out. The problem is then if everyone goes in at once and tries to get their money out, the bank fails. It's called a run on a bank. It was a big problem the U.S. had for a long time. If you take U.S. history, there's like half of like advanced U.S. history is like, oh, and then we have the panic of this year, and then the panic of that year. It's because it was waves of bank failures. And then the government decided not to have that happen again after the Great Depression, and they
Now it's
insured the
happening even
banks.
worse.
However, what's also happened, in addition to that, is they've started bailing out the banks when they fail, so the bank can keep operating. So they bribed all the congressmen. Hot take: when the bank fails, let it fail. Like, make sure the people don't lose their money. The bank goes out of business because the bank failed.
Yeah, if the bank can't fucking keep its job up, it shouldn't be a bank anymore
Yeah.
because it's going to continue to make bad decisions.
Like, maybe if it's like the whole economy thing, maybe. But even then, I mean, like,
If the
going
bank
off
is
on
failing
government
because
bailout shit.
go on.
I've mentioned this before. Fucking government bailouts. Stupid. Trying to find like the list of like the big ones. List. It's like specifically for like the like banks and stuff, like freaking Wells Fargo. For this one also has it split between ones that have actually paid the government back and ones that haven't. You've got like Wells Fargo, 25 billion. Citigroup Incorporated, 25 billion.
That's like a yikes from me.
I'm just looking at the ones that like haven't paid the government back. Like so many ones was like millions and Taylor Capital Group, 100 million. It's just investors and just all these bailouts. Some of them were it's like Bank of America. Yeah, they got 15 billion, but they paid it back. JP Morgan, 25 billion, but then they actually paid it. It should be like, yeah, here's a cash injection, we want it back, if anything. Or, you know, just, you failed, fuck you. Fuck you, rich man. Looked around, it's time for you to find out. I mean, the auto companies have also gotten a lot of bailouts over the years. I've mentioned that before. I'll get back to you in a bit when I talk about the UAW strike, but let's finish up the NFTs first.
Yeah.
I think that's it. But yeah, also, digital land, not worth anything if you can make more of it. Because
Yeah.
the reason land in the physical world is so expensive is because there's so limited supply. Just because we have volcanoes creating more land doesn't mean that we can sustainably live on it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, there's actually a economic theory that exists. I think it's called Georgism. It's basically the only thing that should be taxed is owning land. And like the whole idea behind it is like land is like it's basically like land is held in the public trust, and then the taxes on the land is you are basically paying to rent the land from the public, because if you've marked out your land, no one else can use it, and it's something that is a finite supply.
Yeah.
And like one of the ways it was like this philosophy was promoted was like the guy bought up some land in the city, just put like basically a sign on it saying, I bought it for this much. Price of the value of this land will go up. I will sell it at this value, and I will have added nothing to it. This is stupid. That was basically what he said. I mean, it's certainly an interesting thing, but the other thing with it is it basically means if you're like, it also means like landlords would have to pay that tax, but like if you're renting it, you don't from the landlord. So it basically says, "Fuck you, landlords! You're contributing nothing to society. You assholes! You're literally just a leech." I could rant about that as well. However, all right. So, what do we want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about the United Auto Workers strike or the Marines losing an F-35?
About the losing of the F-35, and then we'll wrap around with the auto workers.
All right.
I'm getting
So-
ready to go to brunch with my friends soon.
Right. So, earlier this week, I think like Monday or something, I forget exactly what day it was, there was an incident over South Carolina where a Marine pilot had to eject from his plane. He's fine. He landed in someone's backyard and like got an ambulance for him to take him to the hospital to make sure he's fine. He's fine. And the thing is, they didn't initially know where the plane went. And it got to the point the Marines were like asking the public, if you have any information, please let us know. And this got a lot of people upset, particularly some congressmen who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, as usual. But like, how the hell did you lose an $80 million plane and not know where it is? Which is wrong, which is stupid on two counts. One, it's an F-35B, it's a $110 million plane, not an $80 million plane. That's a different version of the plane. Also, on the count of how did they lose it, it's a stealth plane. Its whole point
You know, it's not meant to be found.
Yeah, that's the whole point. They have ways to make sure they know where it is. If you're like flying around, you're supposed to have like a transponder on so air traffic control knows where you are. However, the rule is if you're flying in formation, as military fighters tend to do, only the lead aircraft has it on. Because otherwise, all the transponders respond at once, and it basically just garbles the signal so you get nothing from it. The other thing that they have, that they use sometimes, is they have these devices they put basically on the wings that basically radar reflectors. That mean they show up very well on radar, which lets them fly around and not be stealthy. They can basically turn it off. It's something that has to be put on and taken off on the ground, though, by the ground crews. The other thing that's useful is if you're flying around with those on, like not doing combat or whatever, you're just flying around, it means like people can't get a look at the plane to try and figure out what its radar signature is, because it's got these things that are just putting out a whole bunch of extra radar signature. It basically turned the plane from basically looking like a crow to looking like an airliner. They're designed to basically shoot out, make it show up really, really well. Useful because it's normally designed to not show up. So many people were like, there's so many conspiracy related about this thing. Cause like, the other thing is, it was found like 60 miles away from where the pilot ejected. And a lot of people like, what? How? Oh, why? Like, no, it's a
Velocity?
plane. Plane, it flies. Also, you have things like autopilot and like ground avoidance systems that work automatically. This isn't new technology. There's I think it was 60, but it's like I had to go look for it. Actually, it was found more. They did find it. Like it took them like 48 hours to find it, but they found it. And they found a plane. It was mostly in one piece. It's still obviously wrecked, but mostly in one piece. They picked it up.
Find out why it malfunctioned?
We don't know. They haven't published it. Haven't released it. Basically, as far as the Air Force, the Marines are concerned, the important thing is the pilot's okay. The thing is, the F-35 is an incredibly complicated aircraft. There's a reason this version cost $110 million a piece. There's lots of things that could go wrong with it. Lots of systems and whatever. The point is, the pilot felt he needed to eject, so he ejected. And it's entirely possible they won't release it because it's the modern fighter jet. It's classified to hell and back. Yes, Jimmy. The thing is, a lot of people are still confused, like, how the fuck did it keep going? It's like, first of all, the Lockheed Martin creation. Lockheed Martin has a system in a lot of their aircraft nowadays. It's an automatic recovery system, where if the pilot passes out, like from high G's or whatever, plane's going into the ground, the computers will automatically cause it to give the pilot time to recover. It basically automatically engages the autopilot and makes it fly level for a while. Oh, ads. Suboptimal.
You're still fine on my screen right now. Also, Bolt. I asked you in DM.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
I just answered. I was aware.
I just need that for your dice. That was the only thing I was missing.
Yeah, I was
Kid
about to
Icarus
say
asked.
can I shortly interject? Real short?
Yes,
That's
go
you,
ahead and interject.
Mina. I was gonna ask Mina real quick, like, at the end of everything, I would have asked as well, like, if I was able to join or if I should wait another week, and I was like, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna do like last time, enter the lobby until everyone's there, then I would leave immediately to not interrupt your session. So
I can figure out a way to get you back in today, so you're free to be in the session. And then as events unfold, I will, give you time to hop on in.
all right.
Yeah, Meep is incredibly
Yeah, then I will have to mention then, I guess, I will stay in the lobby, like, in a voice chat, but keep myself muted until I'm needed, if that's good.
Fine.
Gotta make sure how I
Oh,
can, like, do it.
Oh, ads are finished, at least on my end. Oh,
Yeah.
Kid Icarus
Fine.
Pit asked how I know these things. One, yes, I am very clever. The other thing is, I've looked into this after I learned about it because it's interesting to me. The other thing is, as for the Lockheed Martin's automatic recovery system, they're very public about this. In fact, I actually was at a presentation thing and they actually mentioned it. Actually, it wasn't Lockheed Martin who presented. It was it was actually Air Force was doing a presentation. It's specifically the base that actually developed this system. Things that pilots do when they initially take off is pull a high G maneuver to like make sure everything's good, and sometimes they'll pass out whenever. And plane goes down. Modern aircraft, especially some of them will be F-16, have a flight computer that basically interprets the controls and then has the plane controlled via that. Basically, when the system detects the plane's going into the ground, it will detect that, and it will basically flight computer levels out the plane and gives the pilot time to recover. So if there's no pilot, that still works, obviously. The other autopilot systems.
And this
The concept of the plane keeping going. One of the things I've seen people talking about in relation to this is I think it was in like the 70s, there was a Air Force pilot whose aircraft had gone into a flat spin, which is basically unrecoverable, generally, unless you're super good. His pilot ejected from the flat spinning aircraft. Basically means it's just spinning on the level.
Basically 360s.
Instead of going forward. Yeah, it's doing 360s on the spot.
Spin without the egg.
And the pilot ejected from his plane, and what ended up happening is, in that instance, the ejector seat firing and the change in the center of gravity pushed the plane's nose down, which then caused the plane to, on its own, regain stability and ended up belly landing in a cornfield in a position where they repaired the aircraft, which is incredible. And another instance of this that's even more impressive is 1944. 1944. A B-17 Flying Fortress, big heavy strategic bomber. Came in and landed on an air base in Belgium. It was a British airfield.
back
Like,
to me,
why
I
are the
guess.
American? The British are there because the British are running this airfield. Like, the Americans must have needed an emergency landing here. They look at it, and the plane doesn't taxi. No one climbs out of the plane. Eventually, they send someone over, and the crew had bailed out of the plane. And the plane had kept going, slowly losing altitude. And just by pure coincidence, glided on like one engine running to a soft landing on the airfield. Nobody on board. By sheer coincidence. And keep in mind, the B-17 did actually have an autopilot. It was like a gyroscope that would keep the plane level. And it managed to land itself. So the idea that a modern fighter jet kept going for like 60 miles without fireball falling into the ground is entirely believable.
I think that they should be also grateful that it did land safely and not fireball into the ground. Just my hot take.
Also land in like the woods, which is very useful, especially since the pilot landed in someone's backyard. Oh. Yeah. The main thing the Marines are thankful for is the pilot's okay. That's the important thing. I mean, the U.S. government's down a $110 million plane, but, you know. We've got several of those. This isn't even the first one we've lost.
I was gonna build another.
There's
You can lose
another
another
thing
one, no
this plane
question.
has. Well, another one that got lost was the F-35B specifically, is the version that can do the vertical takeoff and landing. And the thing is, it's basically they basically just put a second fan in it that gets run off the same drive shaft, basically. There's three different versions of the plane. There's the normal Air Force One, the vertical takeoff and landing one that's mainly the Marines use, and there's the carrier version for the Navy. And due to the way it works, if the secondary lift fan fails, what'll happen is basically the nose hits the ground and the plane flips over, is what'll happen basically. To prevent that from happening, just killing the pilot, an automatic system one in landing mode, that if the fan fails and the nose starts to go over too much, it automatically shoots the pilot out via the ejector seat. Automatically, because it's entirely possible that'll happen too fast for the pilot to react and eject manually. That system has saved at least one pilot when their plane's lift fan failed and it flipped over. But, you know, it works. The pilots are very important, very skilled, and you know, it's people's lives, so you know, useful. Also, I mentioned earlier the automatic recovery system. I never actually mentioned. It's so far the automatic recovery system. If the pilot passes out, has so far been credited with saving 9 lives and 9 aircraft. But you know, that's an added bonus. It saved 9 lives so far. It's pilot skills, especially like elite pilots, Jimmy, are incredibly valuable. It's one of the generally it's you can always build generally a new aircraft, a new vehicle. But the lost skills of crew fatalities, lost institutional knowledge, can be more detrimental. It's one of the reasons we'll see nowadays in Ukraine just truly incompetent behavior from a lot of the Russian forces. There's a video that I saw of a Russian tank crew who clearly got disoriented while maneuvering and basically knocked a whole bunch of infantry around with the barrel of their gun. A bunch of friendlies. They just bumped into them. Because they weren't able to successfully see what was going on. Also, they were driving around in a tank from the 1960s, but, you know. As they do. Moving on from this, from
Jeez, sorry about that.
That's you?
the military to something that's good news, actually. The United Auto Workers Union the United States
Mhm.
is currently on strike. This is the auto manufacturers. Those workers are on strike in, I think it's the largest strike they've ever done.
Ah,
This is basically all the auto workers, like all the major US auto manufacturers, are on strike.
oh. It almost sounds like stuff at my end, where on multiple occasions the public transport had to go on strike because the wage that they were getting
So
was just not enough.
the United Auto Workers are on strike. They are currently demanding a 40% wage increase. Yes, Jimmy, car manufacturer. They're demanding a 40% wage increase, and their reasoning is that is the amount the CEOs have gotten. 40%. The other reason they're demanding that is because at some point previously they had basically agreed to take some cut or whatever due to one of the financial crises. I don't know which one off the top of my head. And basically saying they are like, we did this and we told we'd make it up after the company improved. The companies have made record profit, and any of us cannot afford to buy the cars that we are building. Basically, the entire car manufacturing industry in the US is currently on strike, more or less. Except for, like, Tesla, but that's because it's Tesla and they're assholes, and Elon Musk is anti-union as all hell. Like, the Jeep workers are on strike, I know. I think it's like the Ford workers are, I think. Like, UAW strike, I'll just look it up.
I believe the writer's strike has also come to an end.
Oh, the writer's strike's on that? Oh my god, I just looked it up, and one of the first results is apparently Joe Biden's going to stand in the picket line with them. The president's going to join them. And man's had a turnaround since he told the railroad unions they can't strike.
Given I'm not American, is it for the better or for the worse?
For the better.
Then it's good.
The other thing that I think is hilarious is many of the political opponents of the current president have basically been, yes, he's at least better than Mango Man, Jimmy. They've been like lambasting him for basically, they've been trying to like be like, oh, look at it, look at what he's causing by being so pro-union, blah blah blah. His team has, for the second time, this is the second time I'm aware of this has happened, released a campaign ad entirely consisting of voice clips from the other party and other parties' talking heads of basically just going off at him for being pro-union, and they've just like framed it like, oh no, he's supporting the people, the horror.
You want people to be paid fair and livable wages? Fuck! We're
It's
supposed to keep them poor.
Jimmy, the hilarious part is this has happened twice now. They've done this twice.
You think they learn if it didn't work?
You think they would learn from the first time, but no, they gotta do it again.
The thing is that's baffling because
education. Of course they don't learn.
yes, I mentioned last week. I think it's there. Multiple of the red party's political candidates for president are campaigning on abolishing the Department of Education. I don't remember exactly what it was the first time, off the top of my head, but it was something in the same kind of vein of like, oh no, the president's trying to help people.
Good job.
The other thing that's just how blatantly some of the talking heads are like this is like, apparently one of the Congress people for Team Red like actually went on like live television and professed to being a union buster. you're going on national television and saying, I think labor unions are evil. Wow. The thing is that makes it even dumber. They've like done studies, like even amongst like that voter base, the people who vote for these people, like labor unions are popular in the majority of those people. Like I think it's like 60% of Republicans are in favor of labor unions. It's almost like one of these parties really gets a lot of money from big business in their campaign finance. I mean, lobbying. I mean, bribery.
Meep, are you okay? You're having a lot of slip-up tongue today.
The problem is, I think I put this in the out-of-context quotes on your server, Mina. It's like the quote that I found in a YouTube comment section. Quote, the bad thing about being political in America is both sides have pros and cons, and unfortunately, all those cons outweigh any of the pros, so we have to pick our poison.
Yep.
The fact is, Joe Biden is not very popular, even among his own voter base. Thing is, while he's not very well liked as far as presidents go, everyone's like, at least he's not fascist. Which is a pretty low fucking bar.
I'm just gonna... I have an idea that just popped in my head. I'm just gonna throw that in the idea box for maybe next time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Europeans. I keep talking about U.S. politics, but it's very annoying. I hate it here. It's we have something that's known as the prison industrial complex. Okay, that's a thing in the U.S. Complex. We have one for the prisons.
I just left an idea in the idea box because it just popped into my mind. Because why not?
Maybe a talk on what you think might be a hard language to learn. We can briefly.
Welsh.
English is
down.
Welsh.
I
English
tried it.
is
It's weird.
Weird in what sense?
Welsh. English as a spoken language, I'm pretty sure is actually relatively simple. English as a written language is very, very, very bad.
Like, you can understand bad English. But understanding bad written English is a different beast. My mom still doesn't. My mom has been living in the U.S. for 30 years. She still has issues, and I still correct her English for her work stuff every now and again.
The thing with English, spoken English particularly, that makes it relatively easy, unlike a lot of languages, English does not conjugate. Conjugation is not a thing. It's you basically have a present tense and you have a past tense, and that's like it. And that's basically just you add like a D on the end of most of the verbs. A lot of languages have some really weird tenses. I think it's like one of the Middle Eastern languages has like a tense specifically for referring to two people.
When I was helping somebody with their Spanish homework, they were doing like pronouns, right?
Hmm.
Like él, ella, yo, nosotros, which is we. And then I had to pause and I said, what the fuck is vosotros? Because I've never heard that word spoken.
Right, because, okay, just quick chime in.
That's the formal, right?
No,
Plural?
That's not the formal, that's the normal one. Ustedes is the formal version of you. So in Spanish we have yo, tú, él for singular, nosotros, vosotros y ellos for plural, and ustedes can work for either third person or second person depending on the context that you use it. And ustedes / usted are the more
Never
formal
Vosotros
versions.
used.
You use
In-
like vosotros is very much used in Spanish.
It's
not
used in
Latin.
Spain Spanish.
Yeah, not in Latin
Yeah,
America.
Latin America,
Spanish.
we use
Spanish,
ustedes.
Spanish.
Ustedes
vos.
is just the much more common version. I've always grown up hearing ustedes. I've never heard anyone speak vosotros. So when I saw that, I'm like, what the fuck is that? That's not a word.
You could
And
have.
I
You
asked
could
my
have.
mom about it. And my mom's just like, no, that's a word. It's more formal though. So I guess it's just used differently between the two.
The interesting thing though is English actually used to have like the formal and informal tenses. A lot of the Shakespeare like Old English, like the ye, thee, and thou stuff, that is like the Old English thing. The thing is, the tense that was dropped was the informal. Because the British just decided to always be formal because the English are assholes like that. So you was technically the formal. The was the informal. Thou was the informal. It's just kind of one of those weird things with it where another thing, like a lot of the differences between American English and English and British English is dropping things to make it simpler. Like a lot of the excess letters and stuff aren't pronounced. The U in the British version of color.
Right.
A lot of stuff like that. Another thing that's color. One of the languages I've heard is actually one of the easier languages to learn to write is Korean. Because unlike most of the times written language kind of just happens. It's very developed kind of informally. Korean, like in the last 1,000 years or so, I forget exactly when it was, some guy went and redid the entire Korean written language to make it actually logically structured. So you don't have things like English. We have like the I before E rule that only applies like 30% of the time. Or you have things like, what is it, the A versus an, where it's fills the same role, but it's whether or not the next word starts with a vowel, but only like 70% of the time.
I mean, they also have like an hour where you have to say an as opposed to a because the H is silent.
You have a lot of stuff like that in English. You've also got one of the dumbest things in English though is contronyms. You know, are you familiar with contronyms?
Well,
No,
when
that's
the
consonant.
isn't a vowel.
It's consonant.
Just joking around.
It-
Wouldn't it be things like the vowels are after one another? Or
I'm
something
gonna
like
write it in chat. Contronym. I think that's how it's spelled. Is a word that is its own antonym. Meaning, antonym is the term for like opposites, like open close.
Yes.
Contronym is a word who, depending on the context, means the opposite of itself.
An example of that? Apology.
So, contronym.
Or a bill. A bill is a contronym. A bill can either be something that you need to pay, or it can be the invoice for payment.
Ah, that makes sense. Welcome in,
Bolt
Brandon.
is actually a contronym. Hello. Contronym would include bolt as well, because it means you're bolting it down or you're bolting out of there.
Bolt
It's-
to
We have both here.
fashion
Framework.
into a fixed position or place, or two to leave one's current place rapidly with great
Yeah.
acceleration.
Oh,
I pulled up there's a Wikipedia page on them. The thing is, a lot of these are super common. You have like bad, undesirable or unpleasant, or informally desirable or fashionable. That's just more slang though. have before, meaning both previously and in front of you. Is both success and failure.
Is also
Wow.
it
Talk
means it
about a liberal
remains.
light and
He
dark.
left
Like
alone, or he
a,
left. He departed.
I guess I'll wait for my input as well regarding this topic that I gave out.
Buckle, comprise, commencement, clip, cleave, citation, consume, contemporary, continue, cool. I'm just reading off the Wikipedia at this point. So many of them, and a lot of them are used frequently.
Wikipedia's pretty cool.
Uh, It's ridiculous. It's so dumb.
If you guys can give me, I have an idea. I'm just
And-
Jimmy asked me to do something real quick, so I gotta do it.
Go ahead.
Another thing too, like when you're an English language native speaker, when you're learning other languages, sometimes the things that they use, or their rules for their languages, kind of trips you up. Like when I was learning French, you don't pronounce the H ever. La H, silence.
You don't pronounce like half of the words
Never
in
say
French.
it.
French is a stupid language.
Weird.
No.
It's
Oh,
just silent. Like in hospital for French is hôpital.
Right.
You don't say hospital. You just hôpital.
another thing to round out English being stupid, though, is some of the things some of the specific English dialects have. For example, the Southern dialect in the U.S. Deep South dialect, is known for having a whole lot of contractions. As in, that's things like "it's," where it's got the apostrophe because you're taking out letters. The Southern dialect has does that a lot. They've got triple, quadruple. I think they have a quintuple contraction. There's triple contractions. Yeah, you've got things like Aldov. Am's a contraction. Yeah, that's one of them. I mean, but you've got Aldov is a contraction. Y'all of. Although, I've never seen that word used, but in theory, there's just a bunch of weird stuff because English is weird. Because English isn't a language, like 4 languages in a trench coat pretending to be one.
I do have a small
Celtish,
question real quick.
French,
Wait a
German,
sec.
and Norse.
I'm just gonna do a small cut off screen if you wouldn't
Go ahead.
mind.
Japanese as a verbal language is a little confusing, right? Just a little bit, because if you're not careful, you could be saying something very different. It's like the difference between kawaii and kawaii. If you're speaking fast, you probably wouldn't be able to pick up on it. And he's gone. He bolted out of there. Kawaii is cute. Kawaii is scary, and all that's different is one character. You know? Kawaii, and I put it in the chat.
I mean,
look, I'm
another
here
one
again.
though, in that kind of vein from English is you can find some of them where it's like sentences whose meaning changes depending on where you put the comma, and you can put it after any of the words. The sentence meaning changes completely, and they're all different. But then you have some of those really weird ones where it's the English sentences that are entirely grammatically correct sentences that consist of one word repeatedly with its different meanings. Or a niche situation where you can use "and" 5 times in a row grammatically correctly. That's just more of the people specifically looking for ways to do stupid shit with languages, which you can probably do in most languages.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna circle back to Japan for a second, just because like kawaii and kawaii being, very close. I think just things having double meaning in like kanji specifically, especially in like Chinese characters. that trips you up more than anything. The police polices people because they don't know how to police people, even though working for the police. Yeah.
I think that is the police policies.
No, it's a little bit of a tongue twister.
But I still haven't given my input as well on the topic, like what I would believe to be a hard language to learn and whatnot. I gave the idea that I just don't get to say in it. How fun! I'm sorry that I had to interject there, but I feel like I just have to give it at the very least my own opinion and whatnot. I'm just gonna say it. I think the Dutch language, which is my own language, is also fucking difficult to learn. Not by a long shot, even. The major reason as to why I think the Dutch language is so difficult to learn is majorly because of the vowels. I will repeat it again when Meep's back as well, because you can't hear me right now.
That's right, because you guys use all of the symbols over the letters, don't you?
Yes,
Sorry, my mistake.
we do. I mean, with one of our words, I kid you not, we literally put the same vowel in a row 3 times, and only on the third one do we decide to put, as we call it, a trema, which is basically like 2 dots on top of the letter. And suddenly that one E just becomes something that you have to put emphasis on. It's basically to indicate that a vowel would change in how you pronounce it.
Honestly, chat, most of the Germanic languages are weird as shit.
I could give the example as to how you would pronounce it, if you kind of want an example as to how it would be.
Ew, are you playing a video in the background, Meep?
Jokes aside, though, most of the Germanic languages are fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. They're just wacky.
Yeah.
Like, you use
Like-
this symbol, this symbol, this symbol, this symbol. I think this one too? I'm not sure. I don't think so, but I think you used the last one.
I mean,
You also use
Yeah.
like German. You use like the beta B as an actual word, and it sounds like an S instead of a B, if I recall
Yeah.
correctly.
yep. I don't speak German much myself at all, but I can confirm that one. The one that looks like a B is actually an S for whatever reason.
And like, is it W or is it V? That sounds like an F. So father, fata, is written like this, which in Spanish is basically the toilet.
Butter.
Butter. El butter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Alright. I'm gonna go get ready.
You just
You
went
guys
there.
have fun.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
See you
I
around,
gotta
Mina.
head out. I'm hungry.
You
I
will.
gotta eat food. Later.
Bye bye.
So that just leaves you and me for now, Jamie, considering Meep is currently away.
All right. I guess I'm back at the grind. But yeah, it's
wait.
mostly just most Germanic languages in English are just fucking weird.
Yep. You want to know
Like
something
French
funny
French
as well?
is stupid because you don't pronounce half of the words that are in the word.
Yeah.
Seriously, the only language that I've seen apart from Spanish that like makes any sort of sense is Italian.
Would make sense. Like, you want to know something that's actually really funny to me personally?
I'm back.
I not only decided to teach myself how to read,
Yeah?
I'm just too cool for school. I just taught myself how to read because why not?
Read what?
read.
Oh, in general.
In general, yes, I just taught myself how to read because I'm just too cool for school. I just taught how to read myself. And, I kid you not, my first game was Red Rescue Team. So, a double whammy if you will. I not only taught myself how to read, but I also taught myself English at a very early age.
Oh, that's nice.
Sorry for your loss.
What? Yeah. But I'm gonna have to ask you as well, what would you think, Meep, of the Dutch language? My native language.
I don't know too much about it. I know it's related to German.
That's
Has a lot of similarities with German. I know it has a lot of similarities with German.
I mean, we used to say yes.
I don't know too much about it. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, the only thing I can tell you is, if you were ever going to try and learn it, you might be surprised at the vowels with how transformative they are. Like,
Part of me
our
does
vowels...
wanna-
Like, our vowels really just don't stay the same pronunciation, they really change often.
Yeah, the same with English.
I kind of want to learn Dutch in part because I want to fucking escape this hellhole and go to somewhere that
but-
actually knows how to do infrastructure.
But come here though.
No, learn Dutch.
No, don't learn Dutch. Don't.
I want to ride my bicycle.
You can ride your bicycle in Spain as well.
But the Dutchies are known to ride on our bikes.
Yeah, and also being gigantic assholes in establishments where bikes are being rented.
The Dutch are literally
according to
wrote
my
the
sister.
modern manual on how to do bike infrastructure.
I mean, one thing that I can say, here in the Dutch, we literally have more bikes than we do people.
Yeah, New Zealand has more sheep than people. So I always find
America
really
has more
funny.
guns than people now.
I wouldn't be surprised though.
I'm pretty sure we actually. I know Canada does. Canada definitely.
Has more guns than people?
Yes.
The fuck?
That's mainly because Canada doesn't have any people.
Canada doesn't have people. People does not exist. They are Canadians. They are a different breed of Homo sapiens. Homo Canadians.
Canada has 34 guns. Here it is. Yeah. The estimated number of firearms in civilian possession. The U.S. has the most because the U.S. has a huge population. The U.S. does have more population than people, but
Yes, more
not by a
population than
huge
people.
amount. More guns than people, but not by that many. It's the estimated values. If we go to... There's Canada here. Canada. Alright, Canada... Alright, never mind. Canada's actually not like that. I thought it was higher. I guess
You were
I am
surprised.
Pikachu surprised meme face.
Yes.
I think one of the funniest things, though, is I've pulled up the Wikipedia page, is the difference between registered firearms and unregistered firearms.
Yes.
The difference for some of these numbers is really large. I mean, some of them is not that big. I mean, like... I mean, this is like the top of the list.
Oh, that
like,
doesn't bode well if that's a top then, huh?
Canada is only in 7th. I mean, Canada's got a lot of the unregistered ones to registered, but it's like America, registered firearms, 1 million. Estimated number of civilian firearms in possession, 400 million.
Fuck!
America is literally just like the country where you have guns or you're just not American, I guess.
Oh, it's also because a lot of Americans also like to collect guns.
Because gun look dirty.
Why
The
bother
other
to use
thing
them?
is because people think they're cool. Why do people collect old cars?
Because
Why do people
cool.
collect comic books? They want to. They're
Lord.
like there are Canada mostly is like people with like bolt action rifles or hunting and stuff. Americans own fucking everything.
Bolt action rifles are cool though.
Yeah, it's Americans. There are some Americans who are weird and own like 50 AR-15s for no reason. Those people are weird. Then there are people who are like, yeah, I own like 70 AK-47s, but this one's the Mark 1, this one's this version, this one's this other version. It's got like the collection of all different kinds of AK-47. Because that person just likes the AK and wants all the different patterns of the AK. That's called a collection. It's a thing people do.
Oh, like in TF2?
Sort of. It's like if someone owns like 50 like Ford Model Ts, that's kind of weird. But if someone owns like 50 different models of Ford, that's completely different. Yeah, they're all Fords.
But they're very different Fords.
They're different. It's like this thing with collecting. It's like the other thing that's really weird in the U.S. is not all guns are legally firearms.
Wow.
Legally in the United States, black powder weapons are not firearms. Which means you can own a musket for home defense and not have to pay a tax stamp.
Or a cannonball loaded with grape shot.
Yes. Which, that's one of the other things a lot of people really don't like the current president, is the current president is very inept when it comes to firearm legislation. Like, he has on record multiple times said it was, like, never legal to own a cannon. A black powder cannon is not legally even a firearm. It is entirely unregulated.
Lol. Joe Biden.
It is legal. The other thing that's really fucking stupid is, you know, Civil War reenactors own cannons.
Yes.
A lot of them do. Very publicly. There was a movie that was made on the Battle of Gettysburg, which was a big battle in the Civil War. Where they basically pulled in a whole bunch of the Civil War reenactors to serve as extras, and they showed up. They brought their own uniforms. They brought their own weapons. They brought their own cannons. They already knew how to.
Talked about this.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it before. They already knew how to march in the correct
That is very convenient.
formations and stuff. And basically, like, the production team just basically fed them. It was great because it produced what is unironically one of the best historical movies ever made.
What's the name
Which is
again?
Gettysburg. Gettysburg.
Oh,
It's named after the battle.
Okay.
Gettysburg is one of the most talked about battles in the American Civil War because it was the end of the only time the Southern Army ever marched into Northern Territory. Ended in that battle when the South got their shit pushed in.
And then they lost the entire war.
Yes. How that battle went can best be summarized by one of the lines from Gettysburg after General Pickett charged up a hill. He gets told by the general in charge, "You need to tend to your division." To which General Pickett responds, "General Lee, I have no division." His unit was basically entirely wiped out because they ordered to charge up a hill into the gun line.
Oof.
Oh, yeah, that didn't go very well.
Nope.
And it wasn't even a place where they had Gatling guns. Those were a thing in the Civil War. The Gatling gun had been invented by that point. Neither side officially used them. However, because in the typical American style, in several battles they did show up because the officers, who are mostly rich guys, like went to their men like, "Look at this cool thing I bought. I'm gonna use it."
Look at this cool toy I found. Let's use it.
You spin this crank and it goes pew 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 pew.
Very quickly.
Yes. I think one of the funniest things though with a Gatling gun Like within like 10 years of it being invented, someone slapped an electric motor on it. It worked. The feed system didn't, so it would actually have problems with getting enough bullets, but and then like 100 years later, General Electric did it and invented the minigun. Technically, they invented the Vulcan cannon and then made it smaller to make the minigun, but that's why it's called the minigun. It's smaller than the bigger version that they
It's a
built
mini
first.
gun. Even though in video game, it's so funny seeing miniguns in video games, like shoulder-mounted miniguns. Even though it is probably
it's a minigun,
impossible
but it's like
to
a
happen.
giant gun instead.
The thing is, though, the thing is actually the minigun itself isn't actually that big.
It's the recoil, right? It has to be the recoil.
The minigun's entire length is 800 millimeters, which for context, AK-47 length. The AK-47 length is 880 millimeters.
Oh, so it's smaller than an AK.
Yeah. Though keep in mind the AK-47 has like a stock on the back. The minigun doesn't. The problem with the minigun is 1, recoil. 2, the other thing that the minigun has for problem for manually using it is that you have to carry around an external power source to spin the barrel. You basically need to plug it in. The other problem is the fire rate is between 3,000 and 4,000 rounds per minute on average, but in theory can go up to a maximum of 6,000. 3,000 rounds per minute fire rate, okay? For context, AK-47 fire rate is 600. So that means you have to carry around that much ammunition.
Yep.
There's a reason that Heavy's like, it costs $200,000 to fire this weapon for 12 seconds.
Because it costs a lot of bullets.
Yeah, it's a weapon that isn't used very much. Even the United States struggles to feed a gun 6,000 bullets a minute. It is beyond most applications. In theory, yeah, you could carry it around and fire it, but you'd also need to carry a shit ton of bullets. Plus, you need to carry around a battery to actually run the thing. And for all of that, you'd probably get about 12 seconds of firing. If that.
Jesus.
It is impractical used as an infantry weapon. That's why it is exclusively used as like helicopter door guns and mounted to vehicles. Because if it's mounted on top of like a truck, you can plug into the truck's battery to power it, and you can have the truck carry around its metric ass ton of ammo.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's the same it's the same kind of reason like the Germans have their MG42 that they've turned into the MG3, and they turned the fire rate down. They don't need it to be able to fire at 1,500 rounds per minute. That is excessive.
How much does the MG3 fire?
The MG3, I think, when it's fully optimized for maximum fire rate, I think is like 1,200
It's still a lot.
rounds per minute. Yeah, usually I think it operates at like 900.
Usually submachine guns also go pretty quickly, if I recall. I think like
Submachine guns also tend to fire
like
fast.
750, 800 rounds per minute?
For what gun?
P90. Let me look it up. P90
90?
fire rate.
I think that's about right.
900 rounds per minute. I was short. I said 850 rounds. So 800.
Because it's the thing is with submachine guns, Jimmy, is submachine guns are very, very easy to get to work. It's like 90% of machine gun. 90% of machine guns are basically it's a tube with a bolt that goes back and forth.
Okay, the gun that I was more close to was the MP5. The MP5 fires 9 rounds a minute.
MP5 was a pretty good submachine.
I mean, it's still produced,
Yeah.
right?
I think it is. I know.
I mean, it's really
I
easy
think
to
one of the
make.
Yeah, as most SMGs are, unless they're the Thompson. The funny story with those is the MP5 was like the king of SMGs, and then when it started to be phased out and replaced with newer things, FN built the P90, HK brought in the MP7. They like competed to get like the NATO contract, and the MP7 got its ass kicked by the P90. It just lost basically everything.
The MP7 and the
P90 competed, yeah. And then, so the P90 won handedly. And then Germany's like, no, we're not gonna adopt the P90. Fuck you.
and they adopted
Basically, Germany
Wait, where's the P90 from?
Germany just threw a hissy fit that their gun lost. P90 is from Belgium.
The FMP90. Isn't FN
Yeah,
the
FN.
ones that make the FAMAS too?
The what?
The FN. FN the Hairstyle.
They made the FAL.
Wait. How? FN.
They've got the 5.7 pistol.
The FN57.
The FN 5.7 shoots the same bullet as the P90.
Makes sense. Same company, same caliber would be easier to make.
They were designed to operate together, which is one of the other reasons the P90 beat. Yeah, it's similar but different
5.7
reasoning to why
millimeters,
all
no
the
doubt.
World War II U.S. submachine guns used. All the World War II American submachine guns used 45 ACP, but that was mainly because that was like the only pistol caliber the U.S. had, because everyone used the at the 1911, because it was really good. Also, part of it was the Thompson urged to use it because it was the only pistol caliber the Americans had that could work for what he wanted. Then the later ones used it because it was the one
It's a very round.
they had a whole bunch of, and we made like the M3 grease gun. Yes, most pistol rounds are relatively round, funnily enough. The P90 and the 5.7 aren't, because they're specifically designed for better armor penetration. That was part of the requirement. Because Kevlar is very good at stopping pistol rounds.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, I see.
they're
Okay, I see the
general-
rounds. Yeah, they look more like armor penetrating rounds.
Really
They look more
low
potent.
velocity but high mass. It's basically it's a rifle round but small instead of a pistol round.
It's a rifle round, but it's small.
Because the thing is, Jimmy, like 45 ACP, the Americans love it. That's five short of 50 cal.
But it's for Jesus Christ. How
The thing
big
is-
the 45 mil? How big is it?
It's 0.45 inches.
45 ACP size.
So the thing is, it's not the 50 caliber most people think of as 50 BMG, 50 Browning machine gun
Yeah,
that like
50
the M2
machine
Browning
gun,
uses.
because that's a big fucking round.
The big lad. The thing is,
It's
That's
by
a completely
diameter,
different thing.
right?
yes, the caliber is by the diameter of the bullet. Let me see if I can pull up.
9 millimeters by diameter, and for 45 ACP is 4 inches, 0.5, I assume.
Hold
And
on.
then you have the 40 Smith and Wesson. I think I saw this in like a Badger video, like him comparing all the sizes of the bullets. It's like 9 millimeters smaller, but you can shoot a bunch of them because most of those guns are pretty quick to shoot. 45 ACP, you're gonna stop a dude with that, and then 40 Smith and Wesson just kind of fucking sucks.
Let's see. Can I find a comparison that's all three of these?
Yes, I did. Look at the images.
And I have
no, I'm looking
feature.
specifically for like the
I
different
have feature.
50s.
Ah,
Welcome back.
I was looking for the pistol rounds that we're talking about.
Because
The one butter over here is out.
there
so that's fine.
are 4 common 50 caliber rounds. Well, sort of. There is most common is 50 Browning machine gun. That's using the M2 50 cal, the Barrett 50 cal. A lot of those other things. It is the big boy.
The large lad.
Right.
Big boy.
You've also got you've then got the.
You got images for that? So I can share it on chat?
Hold on. Let me find. Oh. Let me get the images for all the 50s real quick.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find a chart. I'm surprised I can't seem to find a chart with these, but just pull from the Wikipedia pages. I think that'd probably be the best way to do this.
Probably, yeah. But yeah, chat. if you're
And
curious
finally,
what
there's
the fuck
this
I was talking
one.
about, I was talking about those calibers. You know, pistol rounds. Like in America,
get
the
the
most
image.
commons are 45 ACP, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 9mm Luger. Like the Glock, I think Glocks usually use 9mm. Even the Glock 45, and that's called
The
Glock
standard
45.
Glock 17. Standard Glock 17 use 9mm. So we have. Start with the 50 BMG.
I assume. Okay, hold on. Which one is it?
50 BMG is the one on the left, and that one. I think they're labeled in tiny.
Oh yeah, it is kind of tiny. Jesus,
And
nearly twice the size
also
of a gun.
got. Are 4 50s, basically. 50 BMG, which is Browning machine gun. We've got 50 Beowulf, which is something stupid the US military tried. That's basically light 50, basically. And it's basically a modification for the AR-15 shoot a 50. Basically, it was designed to stop suicide car attacks by just wrecking engines. It's not used very much because it was kind of shit. And you have 50 Action Express. 50 Action Express is the pistol caliber 50 that like the Desert Eagle is famous
Yeah.
for. And then finally, that last one I put is the. I closed the tab that had its name. The 12.7 by 108mm, which is actually slightly bigger than the Browning
50mm.
50 cal. And the 12 by 7 by 108 is the Soviet 50 cal, used in the Dishka. I mean, they're very, very similar. The full measurements for the 50 BMG is it's by 138
Are we talking centimeters or inches?
as opposed to. Wait, no, that's not right. Let me. There's a bunch of specifics. Or whatever. The point is the Soviet 50, the American Big 50, the American Light 50, and the Israeli 50.
The Israeli 50, the Action Express, because of this. Or
Yeah, the Action Express. Yeah. But the
if I
Pistol
remember correctly-
50, Shitty 50, the Big 50, and the Soviet 50.
I'm surprised
They're all
the
re-
Soviet 50 isn't the Shida 50.
Oh, the thing is, the Dishka was actually a good gun.
Oh.
It was a good thing. The thing is, they're all 50 caliber bullets. However, they're not at all the same because they've got different amounts of power behind them.
They're-
Because
Like, for comparison, chat, like it's 5 centimeters in diameter. Like the whole circle, the back of the bullet is like 5 centimeters long. That is kind of a big
they're
bullet.
huge. They're very, very long. The bullet itself is very big, but also they've got the massive casings that they're known for because they have a whole bunch of power behind them. Big ones, the EMG and the Dishka bullets. Because they're big old, basically they're light armor piercing. They're very good at dealing with light armor they can go through.
Light armor
Versus
people armor or like lightly armored
light vehicles.
Okay.
Light vehicles. Like the 50 BMG was originally developed use in an anti-tank rifle.
Ah.
It was heavily inspired by the bullets used in the German Tankgewehr in World War II.
Tanks.
They have big powder behind them, so they go very, very fast.
And
then
very,
obviously,
very far, right?
he's like 50 Action Express is much smaller because it's designed to be shot out of a pistol. So
Even then, the
still,
Desert Eagle is fucking gigantic compared to other pistols. My
Well,
brother
that's
has
'cause-
a...
the thing, Jimmy,
Yeah.
with the Desert Eagle, is functionally, in terms of how it actually works, the Desert Eagle is not a pistol. Desert Eagle is designed and functions like a rifle.
Oh.
Basically, it is a pistol that has a bolt.
So it's
Pistols
a-
usually don't have bolts.
So it's a small hand rifle, basically.
There's a reason it's often like jokingly referred to as the hand cannon.
Yeah, yeah, true. True.
And if you ever see one like actually function, it does not move like a normal pistol.
Explain?
When it fires, it is functionally a very small rifle in function. Yes. If you see like a clip of one fire, most handguns when they fire, the entire like top part of the pistol slides backwards. Desert Eagle
Yeah.
does not function like that. In part because half of the weight of the gun is you've got a big giant counterweight on the front of it, so it doesn't just go flying.
Yeah, because it's, big bullet that has to go through it. There's gonna be a lot of recoil. So
I mean, to be fair, the Desert Eagle is not just 50 Action Express. It is available in other calibers.
Really?
They're all stupid, massive calibers, but yes.
I was thinking pretty big calibers. I wouldn't be surprised if the Desert Eagle was available for 45 ACP.
The Desert Eagle is known for its 50 Action Express.
Yeah.
But it is not the only one that it is only thing it's available for. It is 50 Action Express, 44 Magnum. It's got 41 Magnum, 357 Magnum. It's the other thing is the other reason you might want it is things like the smaller bullets. Surprise, you could fit more of them in a magazine.
Oh yeah, no duh. Something that I find really funny is people like having like a Glock 17 with like a 50 round magazine, like a
Stupid.
50 round magazine, which is stupid as hell, but it's also hilarious.
The other thing that's kind of interesting with it, because I pulled up its Wikipedia page, is the bigger caliber bullets also the gun itself weighs more. The other thing is when you get it, there's like two different versions for two different lengths of the barrel. You've got, like the long-barreled version and whatnot. It's weird. It is a very weird weapon. One of the reasons also relatively popular in pop culture is in early days of shooter games. Because the Desert Eagle is basically just a block, it was very easy to model.
Yeah, I mean,
Model
it's,
accurately.
It's just a big block of Israeli technology.
And, you know, it's the big pistol.
Yeah, it's big gun.
And actually, the reason it was designed, at least from what I've heard, is one of the reasons it was designed, it was specifically meant to combat suicide bombers, because if you hit them with something with that much power behind it, they go flying in the other direction.
Also, if anyone's curious what I'm talking about, I posted an image in the Roomba. I find these hilarious, incredibly hilarious. And, they make no sense.
Eddie Nor in chat, The only guns I know of are the M4A1, the revolver, and the MP40.
I mean,
The revolver's MP40 is very iconic. The M4A1 is what the US uses nowadays, and the revolver is an entire classification of weapon.
Yeah, a revolver is a type of pistol. Yeah, type of pistol. I mean, I know. I mean,
Usually, revolvers are usually pistols. Revolver like carbines and rifles do exist, but they're not very popular.
what?
Mainly because the revolver mechanism does not work super well with those systems, and also it can potentially cause other problems. It's much more practical for rifles.
Hmm.
I mean, for pistols.
Yeah. It's like the same with bolt action. Bolt action is just now for snipers, so it's easier to like.
It's
shot.
the reason bolt action is common for snipers is because it moves less when you fire it, so it doesn't affect the accuracy as much because you don't have like the gas bleed off system and the reciprocating action that throws off the aim as much. It's also bolt actions are really hard to
Yeah, they're not easy to jam.
uh
I mean, I'm sure they can still jam,
it's-
but
they can. The other reason they're common is the manual action is easier to get to work for large calibers. I mean, it's obviously you don't need to do it, as John Barrett proved by making a semi-automatic 50 caliber rifle.
is that? Wait, wait, what are you talking about again?
The Barrett 50 cals, the big semi-auto anti-material bang bang. Obviously, you've got like the M2
yeah,
50
okay.
caliber machine gun, but
Okay, yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, the big gun with the funny squared. What is it called again?
yeah, it's the MP40. The magazine. The MP40 is the last one that Raiden Nor mentioned. MP40 is the iconic World War II German submachine gun.
Yeah, the ones that go chuck 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 chuck.
Yeah, the one they're very known for that showed up in like all the movies because, you know, as just ignore that most guys in World War II had bolt action rifles on both sides, unless you're the Americans.
Wait, when did they?
The MP40 showed up a lot. Was that
Wait,
Jimmy?
Which one is the? Ching!
The M1 Garand
Thank you.
or
That's-
Garand,
That's from.
invented by a Canadian man.
That's from World War One or World War Two. The
Two.
Grand. World War Two.
Two.
Okay. Thank you. It's so funny that I did the noise and you recognized it immediately.
It's the most iconic part of that weapon.
Thank God I remember that.
The,
I even
the-
did like
the
I even made like an animation on my arm like of removing the mag because I'm pretty sure that's like the,
M1
empty
is, Garand
magazine,
is very
right?
iconic.
That's the empty magazine just booking it out. Of
The empty clip.
enter clip.
It's the
right.
clip, technically. That's the M1 Garand has a magazine, but it's an internal magazine that you load the entire clip into.
Similar to like the SKS or some bolt action bolt action rifles.
Well, generally, the stripper clip you don't actually put in.
Yeah.
But the M1 Garand, you just put the full thing in. It's an on-block clip. Is the it's I don't know. It's stuff. It gets ejected. And there's a lot of stuff with it. One of the other things that's kind of interesting though is with the Thompson submachine gun is very iconic in like the World War II films or whatever, and being like, right there along with like the MP40 and stuff like that. The M1 Thompson, the Thompson submachine gun, its
Isn't it from
contemporaries are not.
50s?
No, the Thompson is from the 19 teens.
Oh.
Its design was finished like just as World War I finished.
Oh damn. Okay.
Its contemporary is not the MP40.
It's the.
Its contemporary is the MP. What is it? The MP17, I think it was. No, the MP15. World War I German SMG. What was it called? MP18. That's what it was. Yeah. The Thompson's basically a contemporary of that, and the MP18 was kind of a piece of shit. The Thompson was also over-engineered as all hell, which is why it was really heavy.
Which one? The Thompson?
Thompson, yeah.
The Thompson is the Tommy gun?
Thompson is the Tommy gun, yeah.
Okay.
Generally, the Tommy gun refers to the older versions of it that still have the foregrip, generally seen with a drum mag, and you'll see it in gangster films.
Yeah, usually gangster
Versus-
films.
Versus the Thompson, where it's got the straight foregrip
Yeah. And like a straight.
instead of the full front pistol grip, and it's got the straight box mags.
Mhm.
Straight box mag, yeah. It's because drum mags suck ass, and they simplified its production to make it somewhat cheaper. It still cost a shit ton of money.
I still find it funny when you put something that can have a drum mag. You put a drum mag in it, especially pistols, as seen in the Roomba imagery.
I'm pretty sure technically that's a snail
I mean,
magazine.
it's similar
Like wraps
enough.
around inside. I don't know. Weird. They're very. I don't know the full specifics. The thing is, generally, you can probably take the images down. Drum mags generally just suck because they're unreliable, very expensive, very hard to like put on a soldier's kit, and they're a pain in the ass. They're generally just more trouble than they're worth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The other thing is probably one of the most forgotten weapons of World War II is the MP38.
Okay, hold on, let me
Which
check
is-
it.
Which
Okay.
is visually almost identical to the MP40. Because
What?
basically the MP40 is basically just an MP38, but built cheaper.
Ah.
Completely different construction method, but the result is basically the same weapon.
Yeah, you look up MP38, the first thing, at least in Spanish, Google is like MP38/MP40.
Yeah, they're very similar. Like the Wikipedia page for the MP40 comes up first.
Yeah.
MP30 is like just under it. Yeah, if I try and find it on the Wikipedia page, yeah. The development descended from its predecessor, the MP38, which in turn based on the MP36 prototype. Basically, earlier versions were like heavily machine steel. The MP40 was stamped, which just means it was cheap. It was cheaper. It's one of the other reasons. One of the main advantages the MG42 had over the MG34 was it was cheaper to build.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually had notable design differences
Okay.
between them, mainly in how the barrel got changed. The MG 34 kept being produced the war because it couldn't be used in tanks. Because of how the barrel was changed.
I see.
The 34, you basically twisted the back of the gun, exposed the barrel to pull it out and change it. Whereas the 42, you pushed a lever that put it out the side.
Uh-huh.
Which, if you're in a tank mount, you'd have to basically pull the full thing out of the mount to then do it. So it was just too much of a hassle.
Uh-huh.
The thing that's kind of interesting for like the World War II guns is basically everyone had bolt-action rifles with 5-round magazines. The Americans
Only
had the
5?
M1 Garand that basically everyone had. The British had one with a 10-round magazine, but it was still bolt-action. Soviets actually beat the Americans to introducing a semi-automatic rifle for infantry use.
With the...
Oh.
It was the I think it was the SVT. I think.
Are you
However,
sure it's not the
Ameri-
SKS?
Jimmy, maybe you want to take
Very
in the other
similar.
one as well that's still on screen?
Hmm?
The other image that's still on the screen?
Are you in the pistol rounds?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have them, sure. Hold on, my search engine's going. For sure, SKS.
No, it was the SVT. The SKS came out later.
Okay.
The SVT first came out in 1930. It was introduced before the M1 Garand into the actual army service. Problem was the Soviet army still mainly used the Mosin Nagant throughout World War II.
I mean, it was a good
because
rifle.
it was the rifle they had.
True. But like,
It's-
it looks like a pretty good rifle.
The Mosin Nagant was a pretty good rifle. However, the thing is also the Mosin Nagant is a rifle from 1891.
Ah, it's pretty old. Got it.
Yeah.
Honestly, is the Mosin still being used to this day?
Yes.
Yeah, I would think so because it looks like even seeing in video games, it looks like
It's
pretty
been photographed it has been photographed in the hands of combatants in Ukraine.
Good. Ah.
Mainly the Donbass separatists.
If you
but,
look-
anyway, the Americans actually had one. They had a bit more time to do it, and they had the better industry to actually roll out. So everyone had a semi-auto rifle, basically.
Yeah.
By the time World War II started, right at the start, some of the Marines and rear line troops still used the older bolt actions. Pretty quickly, everyone either had a submachine gun or an M1 Garand. And partway through the World War, we had the M1 carbine.
The M1A1?
It's the M1A1's a separate designation.
Oh.
The US really like naming things M1. The M1 carbine was designed
America likes
in
to
1941.
name things with M.
Yeah, it's for like model or whatever. The M1 carbine and then also the M2, M3 came later. Introduced in like 1941, and by the end of World War II, we literally millions.
Of course. America. America.
It was another thing that was semi-auto, and the M2 was actually full auto.
There was
pretty
no,
popular.
There was no semi-auto choosing for that.
I think it was select fire, but
Ah, that would make sense. Wait,
and then the M2 I think was just an M1 with a slightly changed because a lot of the M2s were they sent M1s back to the factory and retooled them, but
hold on, there's an M1.
maybe it was done in the field, I don't know.
M2, and we know about the M4. Was there ever an M3?
M3 there was the M3 grease gun, which was a submachine gun. The thing is, the submachine guns, the rifles, the carbines, they're all like the M1 whatevers, but that's because they're all numbered differently, independently. The thing is, the M4, the modern M4, is technically the M4 carbine after the M1, M2, M3 carbines. The America's rifles, we have the M1 Garand.
Yeah.
That's what we reset the counting. The M1. Then the next rifle the US used was the M14, which was then followed by the M16.
Oh.
The US still uses.
So what a mess, dude.
We still
What
use versions of the
caliber
M16.
does the M4 use? I know for a fact the AK caliber is 7.62. I think it's
Or
7.62
carbine
times AK caliber. I think it's like 7.62 times 40.
AK depends on
7.62
AK-47
times
37 original is the 62 by 39. I think the AKM changed the caliber. AK caliber.
no, it's 7.62 times 39.
Will that? The AK-12.
AK-12 sounds like it uses.
Okay, the AK-12, the most modern one, has a different caliber. It's 5.45 by 39. The
that's-
M4 carbine uses 5.56 by 45 NATO. The M16, M16 caliber is 5.56 by 45.
It can also use 7.62 by 39. The AK-12. Like I was just
M4
looking.
The M14 rifle uses 7.62 by 51 NATO, and then obviously the M1 Garand uses 30-06.
Yeah, 30-06 is 30.306, right?
It's 30 caliber .06.
30.06.
30-06. It's 30-06 Springfield, which is 762 by 63.
Honestly, if I went to America, I'd buy a bullet. A singular bullet. Probably 9mm.
Singular one. I think you can get ones that have like no powder in them as like souvenir shit.
Yeah, like a souvenir bullet. Just to have the bullet.
Americans love
Oh shit, I'm sorry, Paul. You've been here quiet all the fucking time when we're just talking about guns. Yes. I'm so sorry. Yes. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
I've been quiet about this because I feel like...
Oh no, what else after this. Now I have a Glock in my tails. Fear me.
Oh no.
I'm strapped.
An American.
Like look at my character.
But I did also want to point out one
just
thing.
How he gives you the curse of lead.
Yeah.
Yes. But I was going to say that we are rolling a half an hour in overtime right now, so...
Yeah, but the thing is, like, usually when we're, like, 2 hours and we're, like, starting to start quiet... Yeah, not only are we not having any technical issues, we're just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. So, like, sometimes, like, I
guess this is a long hallway before we hit a wall again, huh?
I always think, like, okay, 2 hours is the usual, but it can go for more or less depending on how the Roomba is going. Like, if we're having, like, a lively conversation, it's gonna keep going. But if, you know, if things get quiet after, like, an hour and a half, it's like, well, we have to, you know, get to the 2 hours. I want to get to the 2 hours mark minimum. But, like, you know, if conversation gets lively... Have I talked about the Pokemon... Speaking of changing topics, have I talked about the Pokemon DLC?
No, you haven't.
I don't think so.
Okay, so, a couple of weeks ago, the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the Teal Mask came out. I have finished it. I have 100% completed it. I did all the story. I did all the side things. Technically, I haven't, but at the same time, I have because I did it in multiplayer with some friends. But at the same time, in my save file, it says that it's not complete. This is bullshit. Game Freak. I want my shiny Munchlax. Anyway, but yeah, it's like a lot of. This is always the thing when I see like people talking about the things with Scarlet and Violet. Everyone's talking about how shit it's running, how poorly it's running on their Switch, how much they're crashing, how much like they're freezing. Meanwhile, I'm playing on a Switch Lite. Yeah, it's a pretty recent Switch. It's like from 2021. Yeah, 2021 because it's the special edition for BDSP. And I'm having like literally no problems. Maybe a bit of frame rate, like dropping from 60 to like 40. Maybe 50, so it's not like that big of a deal. And I just like I'm seeing all of this. I'm like, am I just lucky? But then I realized my sister has a Switch that has had, you know, a little bit more time than mine. I think it's like from 2019, and hers also runs fine. And we're playing on like docked mode, so like the Switch is taking more power to do things, and it can overheat. It has happened to me a couple of times. It has like gotten pretty hot. Welcome back to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, my favorite PS2 game. I mean, it does look better than Sword and Shield. And honestly, you say that, but Kitakami does look decently nice. It is very much a more colorful map. Smaller map, of course.
Wait, what's the new map called?
Kitakami.
No.
Yes.
That Warships crowd, Kitakami is a very infamous boat in...
That's the name of the region, Kitakami, because it's a region in Japan.
Yep. It's also a boat in World of Warships that is very infamous for being currently in development hell again. It's the only ship they've ever fully removed from the game.
Oh. Wait, really?
Yes.
Oh, damn. But yeah, also,
was one of the 2 original premium ships in World of Warships, and then they replaced it with something else, and people wanted it back, so they tried to bring it back, and they realized that is not working very well. Because what it is literally, it's the Tier 4 Japanese cruiser. They took half the guns off of it, gave it just, I think it's like 40 torpedo tubes.
That's a lot of torpedo tubes. Ain't it?
Originally it was at like tier 8, and now they're trying to put it back at tier 10, so that's gonna be fun. It's literally torpedo hell.
But yeah, it is the region of Kitakami. You get you Ogre Pond, my beloved little girl gremlin.
Little guy.
No,
little
girl.
gremlin.
Girl. It is a girl. It is 100% female ratio.
Interesting.
Yep. But yeah, it is
Yeah, what the internet might
relatively
do.
pretty region to like go around. Much smaller than Paldea, and like a lot of things for me have gotten fixed. Like the game runs better and the boxes run better. But then I see other people like, oh, this is I saw the other day, I think it was yesterday or even today, people having like their Lux trays bug out and have like completely different textures. I'm like, the fuck? Like, I might have to check that out myself later. But yeah, that is, it's been a bit of a mess. But yeah, in general, like, Kitakami
AAA
has been-
game developer release a complete game. Challenge impossible.
Yeah, it's been impossible since like 2015 onwards. Jokes aside, gaming needs to change. Like, as a general sense, just games need to change because it is starting to get unbearable for everyone. Sometimes, like, I find this funny because, you know, indie games, lower graphics, better stories, blah 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 blah. But like, at the same time, I sometimes wish there were games that were literally lower quality, if that meant that there would be better games in general. You know, like a low poly racing game. I would fucking play the shit out of a low poly racing game. Like PS1 graphic racing game with like actual modern
Nintendo,
cars.
bring back the Gen 4 graphics, I beg you.
Not even Gen 4, Gen 5. Gen 5 looks better.
I honestly prefer Gen 4.
Fair enough. Completely fair enough. And lectures yesterday on Pokemon quality over quantity. Yes, but at the same time, like, yeah, no, actually, yeah, no, quality over quantity. Because these developers, a lot of times in AAA games, they like want to shove so many things into the game. There's too much, and the game's just not good. Please give it more time to cook.
It's not just games that are like that too. Where some of the stuff was like even like a lot of modern electronics. Like I don't want the slimmest phone imaginable. I want a battery life that'll last more than 3 hours. I don't want a super thin light laptop. I want it to be viable as a bludgeoning weapon. Because then it will have a battery life that will actually last a while.
Okay, I did not think of that. The tree graphics. Sword and shield. It's funny you say that because there's a lot of trees in Kitakami, especially considering that it's like an orchard area that you go to. And there's like 2 areas with like a lot of apple trees, so there's a lot of like small models on the trees of like actual apples and applings. Like the thing that Pokemon like really nailed, Game Freak really nailed this generation is that the signs of the Pokemons, like a lot of them got like really good upgrades and glow ups, and Pokemon look a lot better. Not Mewtwo though. Yes, and I do not really like how Mewtwo looks in Gen 9. He looks really fucking stupid. But it's a me opinion. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be pretty much it. Oh, the DLC, it's just good. I don't think it would cost $35, but at the same time, you do get the other DLC at the same time. You get both for $35. So it's like, is it worth? What's the half of 35? 17? Boys?
1750.
17, yeah, 1750. Yeah, I mean, I'd say it costs more like 12, 13 bucks, maybe 15. But, you know, it's more a game that I get to play, and I really like Scarlet and Violet. I never played Sword and Shield, sorry. It's becoming like, it's now this game that I've played the second most hours on, Pokemon-wise. The first one being Pokemon Platinum. I've played 1,600 hours in that game. Nearly 1,700 hours. I really like Pokemon Platinum. It's my favorite mainline Pokemon game. and Scarlet and Violet
Understand.
are like my second favorite, or like they're becoming my second favorite. I'm starting to like them more than Black and White. Which, speaking of Gen 5, hot take, I prefer Black and White over Black 2 and White 2. Like, by a margin too.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey.
Black 2 and White 2 are good games, don't get me wrong, but it's just... I feel like the story kind of recycles itself partly, and then there's Mr. Portnoy, who just kind of pisses me off, dude. Like, fucking chill, grow some balls. No,
Yeah.
no
But I think-
bikini.
Look at the chat for a moment. That's what Renio said.
Yeah, I am reading. Well, Murder Mutant Unite, yeah, true. Fair, same. I think a lot of people want to Murder Mutant Unite.
Yep.
By the way, Bolt, I am in Ultra 5 now. I made the climb the other day.
I see.
When we finished the climb, I was like, I'm going to get to Ultra. And I got it. I went only Umbreon and Absol.
Nice.
I mean, they're
Rock
like
solid.
lately, Absol is my main in Unite, and Umbreon is a Pokemon that I've really taken a
Yeah.
liking to play. So I literally only played Absol and Umbreon until I got to Ultra 5. Ads, by the way.
Yeah.
What has the Meep
What?
sent me? Ah, Big Titty.
I just found a picture, so we send it to Jimmy because Adobe likes sweet tea. Anyway,
Big Titty is just a good
like Big
mythical
Titty.
Pokemon. Yeah, Bolt really likes Big Titty, so I'm saying
it's one of the better mythical smolds.
Honestly,
Yes.
Gen 6 mythical smalls
It's my
are the
second
worst
fave,
ones.
so
For me, like
out
Gens
of all
1 through
Pokemon,
5,
he's on number 2.
Gens 1 through 5 small mythicals are all good. I don't really count Fion. Like, Mew is adorable.
I
Celebi
say
is very cute.
we.
Anything you two want to talk about before we end it? Like, we've been talking for a while.
No, I was gonna say. I say we think about wrapping up, so we have a quick break before we return over on twitch.tv/Mina Raichu for some Pokemon Mystery Dungeon and Dragons.
Yeah, let me just...
Without the dragons. So far, anyway.
I mean, for now.
Yeah. We have next week again where we return on the Roomba.
Same hour. Raynor, you should go follow her
I think
now!
one of my favorite bits.
Oh, by the way,
I think one of my favorite things I've seen actually with Shaman was the thing was specifically the Shaman from the Giratina and Shaman movie, just very
Yes.
specifically is an asshole. Just that one.
Sky form
That Shaman
is a
or,
bit
or
of an
ground
asshole.
form? Because they had very distinct personalities depending on the form.
The
Well,
ground
I mean,
form was
that's
definitely
that
an
individual. That individual Shaman.
Ah. By the way, quick question. Do straws have 1 or 2 holes?
What?
Do straws have 1 or 2 holes?
One. Topologically, they have no holes.
Oh?
Throw your new side into the mix.
Yeah, a new side has been thrown to the mix. Okay, chat. So if no one, if y'all are confused, the other day I saw this video on YouTube, an animation on Vincent's
Oh no, never
Vinny
mind.
Vine.
Topologically, a straw has one hole. Never mind. So yeah,
Okay,
one.
Yeah, 1 hole. Okay, so you think like me, they have 1 hole. But the thing is, at the
Yes,
same time,
I-
when I think of straws, I think of 2 types of straws. The straws that can bend and the straws that can't bend. For me, I think the straws that can bend have 2 holes, and the straws that can't bend have 1.
About the crazy straws.
No, I mean like, there's bend like there's straws that can't bend.
I know
like,
what you
they're
mean by
just-
the ones that have the articulated section.
Yeah.
I know that.
I mean, the crazy ones usually are ones that can't bend, so they have 1 hole. The other ones, like, they're shaped like a heart or something like that. Yeah, that was something in the... Oh yeah, you had the declining trust in the media as a reliable source of information. You want to leave that for next week? Meep.
What?
We have the declining trust in the media as a reliable source of information. You want to leave that for next week?
Oh, alright. what I'm gonna do, this one, gonna very briefly touch on it, and we'll go into more detail for it next week.
Okay.
This was inspired by one of my classes. We had a discussion about the media, and basically is either A, the media, modern mainstream media is either A, mostly propaganda / fake news, or B, mostly the truth.
Uh-huh.
It was just basically everyone in class was like, yeah, I know it's mostly lying. And then I put in like the same Discord I had a couple weeks ago where it's thoughts on the on-campus dining. Remember
Yeah.
that I had? And that one, and the same thing is basically it was like, yeah, I know it's all like fake news, propaganda, whatever. And I'm like, the thing is, like, I kind of get where people are coming from on it. Like, at the same time, like, 60% of news coverage, it seems, in the U.S. is either the weather, traffic, sports, or the current stock market numbers. So,
Yeah, it's more
Same-
it's more propaganda stuff, propaganda-y stuff in Spain. Like I can tell you that much. Because there's a lot of news about the government in Spain.
it's not just that. It's more like in the U.S. like editorials passed off as news and opinions and what misrepresenting. The thing is, the way I've seen it summed up is media does not tell you what to think. It tells you what to think about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In some one specifically, it was a study done in Australia. We'll wrap the up with this. The study done in Australia, where the party that won the election was the party whose main thing they were running on was the thing the media would not shut up about for the 6 weeks before the election,
Yeah, that makes sense.
which was taxes.
Of course.
Because if all the media is owned by one rich guy, and all the media says, "Oh, lower taxes," then people want to lower taxes. Or even if they don't say lower taxes, if all they talk about is tax policy, and the party who's campaigning on tax policy clearly knows what's important. That's all people can think about because that's all they hear is taxes, 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 taxes. If you heard nothing on the news but talking about trains, then the party who's running on trains, regardless of whether or not they're pro-train or anti-train, if their marketing is all focused on what you've been hearing about, that's boom. On the other side, politicians got some scandal. If none of the media talks about it, no one cares.
If the media
No one's
talks
talking
about
about
it, everyone's going to be on that train because everyone's going to be thinking about that.
They don't need to. Yeah. The other thing is the media doesn't have to lie to you to lie to you.
Explain.
Well, they can just
Lie by
omit
omission?
details.
Okay, lie by omission.
Deception by omission, or by lying with very shitty presented statistics. Like, there is a way you can trim the global average temperature graph, say that global warming is not a thing.
Uh-huh.
Just by basically you start the graph at a really hot year and then compared to where it is now. Oh, look, it's gone up barely at all. Or it's gone down. That's like, it was a really high peak not that long ago. Or just carefully trim a graph of really weird scaling on the graph or whatever, and you can. It's like there's like 3 times. Some guy who said a quote. There are 3 kinds of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics.
Yeah, statistics, statistics. Sorry, that word is kind of hard to say for a non, English speaker.
Okay.
Statistics are kind of malleable by whoever is posting them. So it is really easy to lie on them.
The other thing the media can do, if they want to lie to you without lying to you, is they go the "we've heard rumors" or "we've heard" or "people are saying," and then they just quote like InfoWars or r/conspiracy theories, and say the most unhinged shit. And they're not lying. They're saying people are saying this, so clearly people must be concerned. They just don't say who's saying it.
Exactly.
There's so many ways you can do this and say things that aren't true without technically lying.
Hold on. I need
You
to
have every word you say be the truth, still end up
with a
having
lie.
people believe something other than the truth.
Right.
The final thing to round this out before this is there's a thing you could do in some place in the U.S. are apparently trying to do it. There is one of the significant figures in the U.S. civil rights movement is a woman by the name of Rosa Parks, who their most famous thing that they did, specific action they took was refusing to obey the segregation and priority laws on a bus. And there's a thing some people are trying to do in some parts of the country. Basically trim so much context, basically just reads like she was a Karen.
Damn.
Technically, everything that's said about what is said in the book is technically true.
Yes.
You've omitted basically all the context. Raynor just put it, throws the thing on the lost and found and picks it up. Yo, dude, where did you find that ultra machine gun? The lost and found. Exactly.
I wanted to say that before he put that, it's like, yeah, it is, I swear. It's always the same news here, Lamau. Some guy gets kidnapped, birds aren't real, and frogs are gay. Just, that is a quality line there, good sir.
Frogs are gay was a freaking wars thing in the U.S. Fucking idiots.
Wait, hold on.
They
That's an actual
constantly need to
thing?
That was a thing.
What?
A quote-unquote news group in the U.S. It was basically conspiracy theory, the news site, but had the guy talking about bullshit conspiracy theories. Who would have thought about them putting chemicals in the water that are making the frogs gay? That was an actual thing this guy did on like his news. This was InfoWars, which has been sued into the fucking dirt. So.
Oh. I know the birds aren't real. It has always been a thing since a lot of the time.
The frogs gay thing. That it's quite literally. It was conspiracy theory, the news site, basically. All you need to know about that.
I mean, it was
Conspiracy
the
theories in
version
the news.
of that one instance where he just shouted and just threw his paper across the table.
The actually final thing, and then please we need to actually end. The birds aren't real thing. Funny story. My campus, there's a significant like birds aren't real like club and whatever on my university campus.
Like an actual
was really
club for that.
Used by it, like a club and whatever. And then I actually learned the reason it's a thing is because the university's like main rival in like football has like a bird as their mascot.
Oh.
It's a sports related thing. It's like using the birds aren't real as a meme.
That's cool. That's hilarious.
That's
Like,
amazing.
that's funny. Alright, now we've been going for just about 3 hours.
Yeah,
let's
nearly
end
3
this
hours.
before another run of ads ends.
Should stop.
I'm
should stop
gonna
now.
like you two can
It's
leave.
time
I'll
to
keep
stop.
going until the race ends because there's like less than 10 minutes before the race ends. So I'm just gonna keep here. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna put it back on streaming shit. So we can have the like actual game.
I'm gonna go get lunch and we'll be back for
You're gonna get lunch.
PMDD over with Mina.
Yep. I'm gonna search for there's my phone. Meanwhile,
You're gonna get lunch. I'm
later.
gonna sit here and wait.
Yep. You're gonna stick around and vibe with me, Paul? Well,
I guess I will. Yeah, I guess I will.
I mean, it's up to you, really. But yeah, it's been like I realized how close we were for actually finishing the race. I was like, do I really want to finish race off stream? Like, there's less than 10 minutes left. Nah, I'll just keep going for a little bit more.
Yeah. You like you're just like playing this or? Is it like that you're actually playing or?
No, I'm letting the B-Spec driver go. It's always what I do.
Yeah.
Because
It's
it's very easy to do, because I can just let a driver drive while I'm on the Roomba thought. I wasn't expecting to be on the Roomba thought today. I was expecting to be vibing. So for it full something about the water turning the frogs because chemicals in the water. I will never understand the Americans. Like, European talking to another European. Americans are fucking weird. Like,
I mean,
me, Mina, and people that I talk with that are Americans usually are pretty chill people, but Jesus Christ.
a lot of the people there, yeah, it's
Like-
just they only care about guns.
They don't. Guns is a thing added to it. No, they care about themselves. They care about, like, what I've realized is that a lot of people in America, and I'm saying this because I see like a lot of stories, like murder stories, and it's like so many people that are like either killed for no reason because they're just psychopaths, killed for money because they're greedy as shit.
I was about to say because greed.
Or they kill for. I'm thinking like the other reason I'm thinking is like they want to get rid of their partner. For example, a lot of like there's a show called The Closer, and one of the characters like when a husband or wife dies, and he's usually like it's the husband or like it's the wife that they murder their partner, their significant other, and you're like, no, that can't be. They're partners. They should love each other. But then you realize in real life, so many times that happened. Like, a partner just killed the other partner in cold blood for whatever reason. And those reasons could be because a fit of rage, because they were either a maniac or because just bad temper, bad timing. Sometimes it'd be like that. B, money, life insurance. How many times I have seen cases in these murder programs that it was like they had a life insurance for like
It's often
$100,000, like or $3 million. That's more money. $3 million. Like, okay, yeah, I can see why. Or they found someone else and they don't want to divorce because they don't want to lose their, again, greed, and they just kill the partner. Again, something also that baffles me, rich people. A lot of rich cases is like their kids kill the parents because either A, they're sick of their shit. The kids are just sick of their shit and they just want to live their life. Usually ending up, being completely irresponsible by the case of that. B, because they want the money and their little daddy isn't giving them money anymore. They have to fend for themselves. Again, going to the case of greed. Or, B, because their little daddy doesn't want me to be with this person, so I'm gonna kill daddies to eliminate the problem. It baffles me how many times I'm like watching these things and I'm like, and these are all in America. I've not seen any in Europe or anything like that. And there's a lot of like, murder mystery programs in Europe. You have Death in Paradise. You have Vera. You have a lot of. Have you heard of the term Nordic Noir?
the term. Well, I think I haven't.
Okay, so for context, chat, Nordic Noir are these murder programs that happen, murders in the north of Europe. And they are all incredibly, like, unbearably grim. Like, shit like, oh yeah, the serial killer has been killing girls and then mincing them into pieces and then throwing the pieces into a frozen lake. So the pieces would, into a lake that freezes in winter. So in winter, the lake freezes, the pieces like in the ice, so people that go into the lake see the pieces of the girl in the ice. This just crossed my mind. You can tell I've been influenced a lot by these series because my mom watches a lot of them. I like listening to murder cases. Like, personally, I find them really intriguing, but sometimes it comes to the point where it's like unbearable because a lot of the times I'm like seeing a case and I'm like, okay, this happened, and it was this person because of this reason. Like, it's gotten to the point that I can really just solve most of these.
Because they're predictable.
Exactly. But these, like, a lot of the times I'm not even talking about, real, like, series like Poirot or like books or I'm talking about real life cases. Like, oh, this person, like, let's say a mother of 3 kids died while going at one day at night for whatever reason, and she has a husband, and in the neighborhood. They're all happy, and perfect family. I'm like, immediately, it's the husband. Like, I can immediately, the first thing I think, the husband killed her. They were not a perfect family. That was just on the outside. That was just the facade. Inside the house, there was a lot of problems. And at one point, the husband said, "I'm sick of you." And one night, for whatever reason, he killed her. Made her look like she disappeared. And case closed. Find the proofs. Find him guilty. Send him to jail. You know? It is very much predictable.
But I think by that point, predictable would be putting it lightly.
Yeah, predictable putting it lightly because it's a real life case. I have a problem.
Yep.
I have a problem, and that problem is my mother. Because she's the one watching all these cases. And, you know, it's not funny in the morning. It's not fun in the morning, waking up 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. in the morning, and innocent until proven guilty. Yes, I know that. That is a very American thing. Oh, game is going very slow. I'm finished. Okay. The race is finished. Let's end this, end this thought as the race finishes. But yeah, in general, it's like, it makes no sense that these kinds of things should happen. Like, why would you kill your significant one? And then you're like, oh, it's because they had a lover. They had the person that died had a gigantic price of insurance money, which never helps. When I hear like this person had insurance money, I'm like, okay, insurance money was one of the reasons why they're dead.
That's the motive.
And that is a very American thing. Life insurance is a very, very American thing. I was. That you say that. You say that the "I was hungry" thing. I think I've heard cases of serial killers killing people and then eating them.
What the
It
fuck
is
even?
just, yeah, like. They won against me in Pokemon. That is a very silly one, but that would be a funny one. I've never had that one. But like, there are these so many reasons why people kill each other in America. Like the shootings in America. How many times have you seen in the news there was a shooting in a school in America? Oh no, that's a perfect one. That is greed. She broke my TV. She didn't buy me a PS5. A lot, and another thing that I hear a lot in these kinds of cases, it's her fault. Atta boy! Like, it's her fault. And other things like that, it's like, no, you killed her. Whatever the reason is, you killed her. It's your fault she's dead, not hers. You decide to end a person's life. And that is your responsibility, and you're going to pay with it for life in prison. Like, it's just... She didn't buy me a PS5. That is the kind of thing that you would hear in, like, the more rich people. Some guy got shot because of mayonnaise? What? Okay, Renner, now you need to tell me this. What?
What the fuck am I...
my chicken nugget. Oh yeah, the one of the mayonnaise got too much mayonnaise on a Subway That is American stupidity in a nutshell. Can we just say that? Okay. And with this, we're gonna end the stream because my mom called me, which means that I'm gonna have to go soon. This was a last-minute tangent. Again, this is the Roomba thought, not a train of thoughts, so our thoughts just go around everywhere. I'm gonna...
And now we've hit a wall.
We hit a wall before, now we're going to a charging station.
Yes.
Let's see who I can raid. If anyone has a idea, we can go with that. I do have a... I'm gonna raid this person. If anyone has an idea, go ahead. I have a 3,000 point thing for rating. Yeah, 3,000 points for, saying who we should rate. But if not, I'm just going to raid Ryu Garia _115. They are playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and they're a Spanish VTuber, so prepare for Spanish. But yeah, I will see you all tomorrow with more Need for Speed on the Most Wanted. As always, anyone in chat, if you like the content that you've seen, do make sure to follow and recommend me to your friends, because I'm sure your friends would like my content. I like to think that I'm a pretty funny guy. Yeah, baby. But yeah, I hope you all enjoy this. We'll see you either tonight with PMD&D or tomorrow at 6 p.m. GMT, Greenwich Time +1. For more Need for Speed Most Wanted, yes, and PC. Until then, ta-ta!